You remain silent while staff starts the live stream. Vice President Bullicus, the live stream is now live. You can turn on your mic and start the meeting.
Good evening and welcome to the May 6th Board Workshop meeting at the Capistrano Unified School District. The meeting is now in session and the time is 5:05. Ms. Schwenke, please call the roll.
Trustee Castellanos.
Here.
Trustee Pritchard is absent. Trustee Zollinger.
Here.
Trustee Jones.
Here.
Trustee Adnams.
Here.
Trustee Bullicus.
Here.
And Trustee Davis will be absent this evening.
And may I ask our Chief Technology Officer, Stephanie Avera, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Second.
Moved by Trustee Castellanos. Second by Trustee Zollinger. All those in favor, say aye. Those opposed? And so that is a 5-0-2. I'd like to recognize Clark Hampton, Deputy Superintendent, Business and Support Services, to present the following business and support services item. The proposed use of facilities, fees, schedule, and transition plan.
Thank you, Vice President Bullicus, trustees. Nice to have you here tonight. This item that we're going to discuss today is something that we've gone through many years ago. We did an update to the facilities fee structure. And as time passes on, as we went through COVID, now we're back to where we really need to take another look at the facilities fee structure, what we charge. We're guided by the Civic Center Act, so there's certain requirements where we're required to make available public facilities to the public for their use, but we also have to charge them the direct costs for the use of those facilities. And as time has gone by, the fees have not kept up with the direct costs of the maintaining the facilities or the capital costs for the facilities themselves. So what we want to do tonight is we want to go through a transition plan to getting our fees back in line with where they're supposed to be per ed code. And then also meeting a plan for discussing this with stakeholders so that they can be eased into this newer fee structure, which in some cases are frankly much higher than what the district's been charging because they're below the direct costs. So we want to get into that. So tonight with me is the Chief Facilities Officer, John Forney, and Executive Director of Maintenance Operation Transportation, Carlos Chicas. And they're going to present the transition plan for our facilities fees, and then we can have discussion. And during each slide, feel free to ask questions so we can clarify each item as we move through it.
Before we start, may I ask, do you remember what year we had increased these fees? I know it's been since I was on the board, but I couldn't remember.
Yeah, 2019.
It was 2019? Okay, thank you.
So I'm going to turn it over to Carlos Chicas to present.
Hello, trustees. We're following up on our February board workshop where we went into some detail regarding the gaps that exist when we're talking about recovering costs, right, with our facility rentals. So just as a real brief recap, this just is a snapshot of some of the associated costs, particularly operational costs. It's significant annually, and this is really narrowed down to those spaces that are rentable, right? That people can book. Our actual operating costs are larger than this, but this has been narrowed down by those spaces, that square footage that people can actually book, and they do. We identified, particularly in that Group B, which are some of our youth serving groups, there's a gap of over $2 million. So as we address that, we think about a mandate, a goal, and an action. And we need to get to that point, and the board expressed this very well last time we met, where our fees are more directly reflecting what our costs are, right? In some cases, with some of our groups, they have been. In others, not even close, right? So we want to maintain access for the community. That's something we have to do under the Civic Center Act, but we also want to do it being mindful of the financial implications.
Pardon me, one second,
yes.
Mr. Chigas. On your previous slide, you have the 2.3 million just on the youth serving nonprofits. I just wanted to point out that buys a lot of counselors or BCLs or whatever.
Yes, for sure. So what do we need to do? We need to get to a fee schedule that is actually, covering that gap. And that's what we're hoping to do as we inform you, and then as the board makes some decisions moving forward. So how do we calculate total direct costs? There's a lot of data collection. I mentioned square footage. What we did before we started using this new system of actual, people booking through a web-based system, is we went to every site and we identified the square footage of these spaces. So we went and we actually measured, okay, what is this, how big is this gym? And then, of course, you have to gather your operational costs and your capital costs, and then determine what part of that applies to that particular super type facility. And then once you get that, you aggregate that cost, you add both those two for the sake of simplicity, you add the two capital costs and direct operational costs, and that gets you to an hourly rate. So drilling down a little bit further for operational costs, and we tried to depict it as best we could in this slide, but I want to kind of work through it so we understand all the steps in this formula. So once you've identified what those annual operating costs are, and as you see, the list kind of gives you an idea of everything that's involved, including staffing and labor, then you take that square footage for that particular space and you divide it by the total annual hours that space is used. So that includes our use, right? Our internal use, what sites use it for on a daily basis. And oftentimes we even use these spaces on the weekends, and that includes our use. So we take all of those and then we identify the actual usage by the public. How many hours were they using that gym, right? That gives us to a shared cost on their end. That proportional share is what helps us come up with the facility use fee. So you divide the total annual hours, and you come up with a public use percentage. That percentage is then applied to that particular facility type. But then there's an additional step, which is you have to go back and divide it by the hours that they actually use it for, because that is going to get you to the hourly rate that they'll be paying. Any questions on this portion? Yes, Trustee Bolikas.
Okay. I'm sorry, I don't want to preempt. Are you getting into then the chart still forthcoming about the
Yes,
actual
we'll drill
places?
down. We'll use an example so we can actually see what.
Oh, wait, I've got questions on that, I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. So capital costs are determined by estimated replacement.
So I just want to make sure we're different. We just talked about operating costs. So now, and that is the cost to actually keep it going with electricity and things like that. The capital cost is like what the cost of the building is, like the replacement value for the entire building itself. So those are the two major cost factors. because then later you'll see how those factor into the hourly rate.
That's correct. Thank you, Clark. And just so we kind of get an idea, there are operational costs that are ongoing, but then there's also ongoing capital costs, right? An HVAC system that has to be replaced, all types of issues that can come up with other equipment. With a pool, for example, there could be a heater or a pump that goes out, and that has to be replaced throughout the life of that facility type. So you capture that in capital costs, right? The other portion is more of just the operational upkeep of that facility type. So how you get there is you get an estimated replacement of that particular facility super type. For example, a gym, which right now we're replacing a gym, and that's somewhere in the neighborhood of
$22 million.
$22 million. So based on that, we divide it by a lifespan, right? An estimated lifespan, and then we divide that by the percentage that the public's using that building. That then is divided by the hours that they use it, actual hours, and then that gives us an hourly rate. So just to summarize that, operational cost rate plus the capital cost rate, those hourly operational costs and hourly capital costs, they will equal the hourly facility use fee. So here's an example of a large gym, right? So we've determined that this gym has a square footage of 25,500 square feet. And the total use of this gym, including the district's use, is approximately 1,720 hours a year. The public is using it for 100 hours. So that gives us a proportional share percentage of 5.84% for the public. That's how often they're using it. We then take our annual operation costs, which we identified for this particular gym, $222,561 for that particular year. The public's share of that, in other words, 5.8% of that, is approximately $12,997 per year. You then take that and then you add the capital costs, which in this case, a lifespan of about 50 years. That gives us an annual capital cost of approximately $191,310. Public share of that, in other words, 5.8% of that, is about $11,166. That gives us an hourly rate first on the operational cost of $129, and on the hourly cost for the capital cost, $111. The step that we want to make sure we understand is that after we come to that figure of $12,997 public share and $11,166 public share, you have to divide it by the number of hours that they're using it. That's how you get to the hourly rate. So you've kind of calculated what the whole is. Now you have to drill down to the hourly portion, and that gives us our hourly rate for both operational costs and capital costs. Questions there? Yes.
You said in your statement, this particular gym. So we've got 6 high schools, some in better shape than others, newer, whatever. So to get to this, it's not the composite of 6. I don't know if there are some high schools that really get theirs used more from outside and inside the school usage. So how did you pick which school to look at?
So when I say a particular gym, I'm talking about high school gyms, right? So it is a composite, so an average of use throughout our district of this size high school gym. And there is some variation on the square footage from one to another, but this is the average. Yes. Yes, correct. So we have some small gyms that are at our middle school. We have some gyms that we've identified as smaller gyms, even at our high schools. But for the most part, the high schools are the larger.
Okay, but just for clarification, a Capo Valley High School, for example, and Tesoro, where they have a small gym next door, you're considering that in the small gym category?
Well,
The total square foot?
well, with the total square footage, we would consider the facility super type, in other words, that larger gym, that's the ones included in this category. But that is a good example of that smaller gym. It is closer to some of our middle school gyms, and we've captured that when we come up with a facility use fee for that, based on the size of that particular gym.
Okay, so
Which is
that's
gonna
my,
be in a different category.
so that's my question. Is the Tesoro and Capo small gyms in the small gym category?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I needed, thanks.
So even though like a food court could be different from school to school, you have come up with this sort of model food court or library or whatever it is, and you're just saying this is what a high school library costs, this is what a high school food court costs, even though they could be very different. Okay.
Yes, yes. So they could be somewhat different, but they would still fit within this parameter. So that was a gym. And we picked this other example of the pool because it's an extreme example of a gap that exists when it comes to us recovering our operational and capital costs. So in this case, we notice that the percentage that the public uses it is significantly higher. It's 21.9%. In addition, with a pool, there are significant ongoing operational costs, not the least being utility. Our pools are heated throughout, ongoing. That never stops. So you can imagine what the utility cost looks like there. We also have dedicated staff, pool technicians, that this is their role throughout the year. We are forced often to use outside partners to help us in the maintenance of the pools and repairs as well. We only have, I believe, 2 pool technicians now, and they're stretched pretty far. So in this case, the public uses the pool 454 hours of the 2,000 hours it's used all year long. We have significant operational costs annually, over 500,000. So that gets us to a public share of about 116,000. When you divide that by the number of hours they're using it, it takes us to an hourly operational rate of $255. And then capital costs, again, this is conservative. And we use conservative figures for most of our capital replacement costs. It's about 850,000 annual capital costs over a lifespan of 30 years. That likely is not going to cover a pool replacement, but it's an appropriate figure. So that the public share then is 186,000. You divide that by the number of hours that they're using it, it gets us to the 409 figure. You add those two together, it's $665 an hour, and it's a significant increase. But if you compare it to aquatic centers, you compare it to regional pool rentals, it's actually kind of in the middle. You can rent an aquatic center. Some of them are between $500-600 all the way up to $1,500 an hour to rent a 50-meter pool, because we're using the example of a 50-meter large pool.
Hey, Carlos,
Yes.
could I have you go back? I'm so sorry. On slides 7 and 8. So just for the public, I'm assuming that this presentation is available for the public to see, right? So when I plugged in the figures according to that chart to figure out the operational cost, the hourly operational cost, I was getting a different number. And I kept doing it, going, what am I doing wrong? And then I asked ChatGPT to do it, and Chat said, no, using this, you're getting the right number. There must be a step missing. So and then I think I heard you say on page 8 that there was some kind of, you're dividing the public share by the public use, or you're dividing that number.
So, yeah, and that could be a little confusing, and likely we probably should have spelled that out a little bit better here, but it's hard to put it like in a formula that.
Right.
So public percentage, that includes the amount of hours, right, that they have used it for that particular school year, right? So that gives you a percentage because you're comparing it to the total use. But then when you go back and you want to check out what the fee is going to be, you have to take whatever that proportional share is and divide it by the actual number of hours. But
Okay.
that is still under that public percentage category. It's just two different things. So you use the total hours to figure out what that is, but then when you come up with the total number, you're going to have to go back and divide it by the total number of hours, and that's where you'll get this.
Okay.
That was likely the step that was missing.
I wonder if we want to add that or something, just so that the public can look at it and, you know, if we want it to be transparent, we want them to be able to figure it out, because I had a hard time, so, just saying.
So, so now we talk about how we implement these changes.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Can you go back one slide to the pool?
Sure.
Quick question, operational costs, I understand capital cost. When it comes to a pool, does operational cost include equipment, as in water polo, what outside sources are coming to our pool to use, also the equipment, not the filtration and that? Because
That
how
wouldn't
do
be an
we get that
yeah,
back?
that wouldn't be an operational cost, but that you would recover through capital costs. So operational costs are more, you know, the utilities, the staff that you use, that are needed to maintain it, right? Yeah, chemicals, supplies, those are operational
The way to
costs.
think about it, like on a gym, the basketball hoops would be capital cost, right? You
Even
don't,
though to replace just a hoop isn't,
it's
you
still
know,
part of the capital
huge.
equipment. You can't not have it, right? So
Yeah.
you can't, you could theoretically not heat the pool and not have use, but you can't have no pool, you know, filter. You have to have it. You have to have a basketball rim, otherwise you don't have a basketball court, right? So those are considered capital costs as opposed to the electricity, the lights, the HVAC, the personnel to clean it, all of the stuff that's sort of day-to-day operation that would get replenished day-to-day. Electricity is replenished every day, chemicals replenished every day, the pool gets cleaned, all of that stuff is operational. Any equipment damage, like lane lines, you don't replace those every day. They will wear out over time, but that's part of the capital replacement cost. You don't leave a pool and then just replace the whole pool. You could replace pieces of the capital, like windows in a building you could replace before you replace the whole building.
so it's categorical and not some price cutoff in terms of a building versus the chairs in the building.
And that's where I would say that, you know, Carlos said we're conservative. We could probably make this number a lot higher if we went and said, okay, over the last 20 years, how often have we spent $15,000 to replace lane lines? How often have we spent $20,000 to refinish a floor, restripe it? It would actually probably drive that number up. We don't do that because we're not trying to drive everyone out. We're just trying to be closer to where we are. So it'll never be a perfect get back, not to mention, we pay a lot more for our own use, right? So it'll never be perfect, but the problem now is it's wildly disparate. And we could talk about this, but those agencies have continued to up their costs, but they haven't actually had to pay us anymore. So I don't, you know, like there's going to be some pushback, but we have to keep that in mind is those groups have not kept their costs the same since 2019 for the families that participate in them, right? They've continually raised their costs, and so they've continually had a bigger margin between what they collect and what they have to give to us to use our pools or our gyms or baseball fields.
Yeah. And so the new, to that point, to Dr. Brown's point, the legislation that was approved this past year will not only enable us to capture those capital costs, but then it also it legislates the need for us to then shift those funds to a separate fund, right? So Clark's team will then take those funds and they're going to be separate from other funds. There isn't a lot of language on how you have to spend it, but the intention is that it goes back to the site for capital cost refurbishment. Right, Clark?
Yeah, it would go like into a deferred maintenance, but if you're charging the full amount, then you differentiate those charges and those go into a separate account. But it's really to go into refurbishing and things like that.
So that we can buy new lane lines if we need to. That would come out of that account.
But it's important to point out, it's only for their portion of use, so it's not meant to be saved up to do any full replacements.
That's all we're collecting.
Have we looked at other districts and looked at what the charges? I look at this and I feel like if I were running, for example, a program that used a 50-meter pool, I don't think I would be able to afford to keep it going. Even though they've raised their prices, they haven't raised them this kind of a percentage. I don't want to lose money as a district, but I know pools are super expensive to maintain. So even if nobody else was using it, it would cost us a lot of money. I'm just worried about these numbers. Like, I just look at, if you've been paying $89, which is obviously way too low, but then in 5 years, it goes up to $665. It's just, are we kind of okay with driving, like, not allowing, it's kind of like not allowing public access, I feel like.
That's part of the discussion tonight is how this draft implementation plan. So it's really a 6-year plan because there's nothing the first year and changes. And it's for people to get ready to adapt to it. And then we phase it in and we have a chart later because some of them we phase in faster, but the bigger ticket items, they come in over 5 or the 6-year period.
And the reality is the more they use it, the more wear and tear it gets, right? So yes, you're right, pools are expensive when they're not used, but they don't go through chemicals as fast, they don't break as fast, they don't wear out their surfaces as fast, they don't lose heat as fast when there's bodies not in them and they stay covered, right? So all of those things, when they're in them 20% of our time, it's a lot. Now, most of these agencies have hopefully a lot of kids that are there, right? That's how they disperse their cost. But everyone's looking at this because nobody who's funded the way we're funded can afford to just subsidize for-profit programs. Remember, we're not talking about not-profit programs. We're not talking about community good programs. We're talking about for-profit entities. We can't afford to subsidize them for millions of dollars when they're a for-profit entity.
And and we'll get into this, and this slide kind of talks a little bit about this. So there is a gradual transition, particularly for those ones that are a higher impacted facility type. But in addition to that, the idea is doing this early with a lot of lead time so that people know what to expect. So like transparency isn't just, hey, this is what it is. It's giving people time to digest it. One of the things that we will also do in this phased transition is continuously look at the fee schedule and the proportionate share of the public. If they start using it less, the rate is going to go down. So we're going to study that every year, right? Well, it was 21%, but now it's 10%. So that is going to be reflected in the actual fee. We'll be able to adjust it accordingly. And maybe we hopefully get to a sweet spot where there's access and the we're recovering costs, but it is an abuse of our facilities without us being able to continue to maintain them, at least without encroaching the general fund. So here is an example, a draft of the facility fee schedule. You'll notice that in this one, it is most of our interior spaces, and it would take us 4 years if you count 26, 27, 27, 28 being the first time it's implemented for us to begin to raise the rates. But if you'll take this room, for example, right now the current rate is $21.93 an hour. 27, 28, it'll go up to $30, and then in year 2, $40. Year 3, almost $50. And it's this is a space that there's some cost associated, but it isn't often used by the public, so we don't charge them much to use it. Then you go down to maybe one of our performing arts centers. The rate is close to where it should be right now. So even after 3 years, we're gonna be, it's not much of a push forward. The outdoor spaces and athletic spaces, these are the spaces where we're hurting, right? There's a lot of use and not much recovery. So, for example, we already talked about the pools, but if you look at even some of our smaller pools, 25-meter pool, we're at $48.55 right now. There's a gap of almost $400 what we're charging from what it costs us to keep up with these facilities. So the fee schedule addresses that. And this is just a snapshot of how we're going to get there. We take 1 year at a time, and of course it's more significant with some of our spaces. So This is, of course, as we stand now, those numbers, as I said, could change. In year 3, we could notice a significant drop in public use, and then the fee would be adjusted accordingly. And for our interior spaces, after year 3, it pretty much plateaus.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I actually have a few. So now I kind of understand that you grouped it by indoors and outdoors. I made my own chart today and color-coded it because it was kind of hard to follow these big numbers and then these numbers that were changing it for $12. And so I understood, being a parent, that the pool, usually the Performing Arts Center and theater, are more expensive. But can you just tell me, in regards to multipurpose room versus mall? Because I viewed those as, and every school's different, that those were kind of the same. But in terms of the multipurpose room, I mean, there was a very small change of $13.08. But when it came to the mall, it was higher at $25. So I was just trying to figure out, well, so like, how'd you calculate? So you consider the mall bigger?
Yes.
But the mall is indoors or outdoors?
Well, so
Or-
that kind of categorizing of interior versus outdoor, the purpose of that is more because those spaces are typically used less, right, than the outdoor spaces. Not because there's this bucket for outdoor and one for indoor. It's just based on use. So when the fee schedule is finalized, and this was together, but I couldn't get it all on one slide, when the entire fee schedule is finalized, every particular super type of facility will be on there. So like for our malls, right? You have Capo Valley, you have Dana Hills. Those are significant spaces. And remember that square footage is a big piece of this formula. So that significant space is going to cost much more than an NPR, which is not a small space, but it's still significantly smaller than a mall.
Okay, and then just for clarification, I was surprised that the tennis courts were viewed as less expensive than blacktop. But tennis courts, the way they're painted, they hold up longer, or do you have any thoughts on
Yeah,
that?
that is likely because of use, like how much are they used by the public versus how much they're used by us. So let's say that the public uses it significantly, but we use it internally so much that their share is minimal. Right? So that will affect the final hourly rate.
Okay. I did find the staff lounge kind of funny. Really, do we rent that out much, the staff lounge?
No.
Not very much.
But it had a bigger increase than in some other areas, so I'm like, yeah, still trying to understand the
Yeah,
rationale.
I think what we found when we're doing analysis is that when it was done before, there was, I don't think there was a real drill down to square footage. That's one of the things that was kind of missing in our previous formula of the fee schedule, because we found the same thing. We're like, well, why did that change? And oftentimes it was because, you know what, the square footage is actually different than what was being used before. And I can't speak to exactly how we got there before 2019, but there was some discrepancies in that area.
We also know that the first time we don't have a fee schedule for something, that'll be something that somebody wants to rent. So we got to make sure that
For sure.
we're ready on everything.
I'm just surprised the swimming pools that we didn't do a bigger bump in 2019, as, you know, ranging from $348 up to $575 those are the biggest, huge.
Yeah, I think as we're sharing this out, the board's going to hear all kinds of things, and it happened because even though I wasn't a participant, I remember those board meetings and how much pushback there was for certain facility types. So we can expect that again. I'm sure of it, and it'll be a decision to look and consider, because there's going to be some outcry for sure.
Yeah, especially amongst the aquatics programs, right? That's where they're going to be pushback. But the reality is it's really hard for us to justify taxpayer dollars for private entities. And We know that our pools get beat up faster. You know, a building might last 50 to 100 years, but a pool's not going to. It's just an expensive thing. And if they wanted to go rent the Willett Center or Nadadoras or something else, they're not going to pay $84 an hour for a 50-meter pool. It's just not going to happen because it can't.
You know,
That
in
and the
older
performing arts.
communities, and Mission Viejo is an exception, there was often a city pool or multiple city pools. I don't know if you have them in Huntington Beach, but the community I grew up in had a community theater that was for the whole community. And when the Civic Center Act came along, I don't know the year of it, I think that made it less necessary for cities to build these things, because now, why should we? We'll just use the schools. And I think it's a lot of things that were, you know, like many things, it was well-intended, and at the time, schools were much more well-funded than they are now. But as I said in the beginning, this buys a lot of counselors. This buys a lot of BCLs. This buys a lot of guaranteeing that third graders can read. And I cannot favor any group that's renting our facilities over the need for counselors and BCLs and teaching third graders to read. I can't do it. I cannot, in my conscience, do it.
Well, and remember, we're not talking about no community. There's a lot of community
Right.
groups, like nonprofit swim lessons will not be paying $660 an hour
Right.
at the pool, right? We have the different categories of groups, right? So there's a lot of community groups that aren't going to pay that price, right? We're talking about what the top end is of the groups that are making money by utilizing our facilities. Because ultimately what that translates into is we're paying them, right? We're paying them to increase their profit because we're paying for all the wear and tear on a capital expense they don't have, as opposed to a nonprofit entity who's doing like we do in my city, community city-run swim lessons. They're at the school pools, but they're nonprofit, they're city-run, and they're very economical.
Yeah, and
Community
Did we say
access.
the money we're collecting is going into facilities, though? Like specifically, isn't it earmarked? Did we say that at the beginning, or did I misunderstand that?
Deferred maintenance.
Yeah,
deferred maintenance.
Deferred
So
maintenance.
it's not going to necessarily go to higher. Yeah,
Well,
it's not a general
it'll
fund.
allow us to encroach less on the general
Yeah,
fund.
so what happens now when the pool heaters break is we use general fund money to
Right.
repair
Have to
them.
pull
So,
from general
so the
fund.
idea is if there's more money in deferred maintenance from these types of things, then you have less being pulled out of general fund.
Yeah.
Because that's what's happening, right? So we know there's always going to be a loss for facilities. Like I said, we have a lot of nonprofit groups that use them. We're never going to make up the gap. The key is to not be reaching way into general fund and taking away from other opportunities at this level and to the tune of millions of dollars.
I don't believe that the Community Facilities Act ever intended for this to be a loss leader for schools. I absolutely cannot believe that. The state would not have said, oh, now you school districts, you're going to lose money on this. They thought that we would break even.
Yeah. And-
Well,
Yeah, sorry.
Maybe most school districts might have bonds in place too that upgrade their facilities, which are easier to maintain when they're a newer facility. You have that too.
So
But I just wanted to piggyback off something that you said, Trustee Jones, because I mean, I think this is actually more than generous to give them this long of a runway. I mean, when you're saying this is a 3-year or whatever, 3 to 5 year rollout, I mean, we're not even saying that we're starting until 27, 28, which to me is a year too late. I don't know why they need a year runway, especially when you're only going up $7. And if my role on the board is student achievement, and we are definitely being used for our facilities, and they're profiting because we have the facility and they're not paying enough as what they should pay. And these facilities are older and they take a lot to maintain, and abuse of the pool. I mean, I know how hard it is to maintain a pool. And I can't imagine how difficult it is to maintain a high school pool because the wear and tear on a pool is incredible. So in my mind, this is more than generous of giving. And another note, when we tend to roll out for so long, my fear is that we have these conversations with the clubs and the groups and the coaches that are in current right now, but they're only going to see the $7 increase, right? Well, these guys are going to be long gone in 5 years. And so as trustees, that's typically what we get when we increase fees. We get pushback from constituents and the public and the water polo teams that are at the pools. But they'll have been long gone by the time we get to full rollout. So it'll be a whole new group that'll be coming in saying, oh, well,
And
now
that's one
this
of the-
is another, a price point that they're going to be complaining about. So can we avoid the conversation of not having pushback? I don't think we can avoid it when our rollout is so intensely long.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way to avoid pushback, so the goal is to have
Exactly, so why
information
not
out there.
recoup money faster?
But I would say that the one of the reasons we want to do this every year, right, and to recalculate every year is so that it stays on that front burner. We're going to be talking with these clubs every year. We're not going to talk to them once, and then in 5 years, they suddenly go, wait a minute, what happened, right? We're going to,
I know, but
because it's
that
going to
is the
recal.
conversation we hear, is that
Yeah,
they
and
didn't know, and
I would say that the one thing I've learned is that it kind of, if they're unhappy with it, they'll find a reason to be unhappy, which is totally fine. And so part of it is us trying to be responsive to the community, right? In that we're making a pretty sizable change because we haven't done anything for 7 years. But we want to make sure we balance that with sort of community expectations, right? So like, will it eliminate pushback? No, but it does take a little bit of the fervor, I think, out of it because it's not, we're going to go from 0 to 100% in 2 years.
I mean, I guess, is there a reason why you don't start in 26, 27 if it's really virtually $7, $8, $21?
Yeah, I mean,
your outdoor facilities are going to be a $20 jump maybe, or a $70 jump with the pools, but I mean, to me, that's,
Yeah, it had to do with doing the work. So getting everything prepped, doing the work, getting it in front of the board. And so now you'd be talking about you in July or August made a vote to make a change, or June when nobody was around, and that sort of pushback of you're not being transparent, you're going to make this decision when no one's around. And we don't want that. We don't want to be that way, right? We're trying to be as transparent as we can. So it took us this year basically to gather all the data, run all the numbers, make sure we had everything, present it to the board. For then the board to take action, we're already in May. And so that's why, right? The idea was we didn't want to say in a June or, historically would have been a July meeting when we're actually going to be dark, that we'd make a change this drastic for the community when they weren't around. I think that we don't want that pushback because we want to be transparent.
Question, the trajectory is the 3-year and the 5-year. Within that, while to trustee Castellanos' point that we're waiting, well, the price is also going up.
yeah.
So are we keeping up with that? Has that been calculated in
rebench.
terms of the,
Yes. So we'll rebench every year. So like, as Carlos mentioned earlier, if the community uses the facilities less, then the hourly rate will go down. So we'll rebench each year. So when you get to the end of when it goes for the 3-year rollout from 65 to 194, it could go, the 194 may drop to 160, 175, based on rebenching these every year as we move forward.
well, I got that, and as I said to Superintendent Brown, is that, once they get sticker shock and they say, oh, we're going to try and go somewhere else, and so then now we lower it the next year, and then people might go, oh, they've lowered the price, and they come back, and then we might be going up again. But, so I get the calculation, but for clarity, within that calculation, the cost of goods is calculated in this number. So where we've got the 50-meter pool overall in 5 years, $576, round up, in that is understanding in that 3rd year and 4th year and 5th year,
Those will
that
be-
cost is,
Yeah, those will go into the calculation as well.
will go into, or it's the
Will.
numbers we're looking at
No,
now?
they'll
That's
go-
what my
Yeah,
question
they'll
is.
go into, and we covered that at the last workshop, so there will be inflationary steps, which we don't have right now, but we need to incorporate those, and so maybe a year when the proportional use goes down, the inflation piece kind of keeps it right where it's at. Or,
Okay, so it
you know,
needs to be stated, not the numbers, but, that will be held to year 4
Yeah.
to that number.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we'll make sure we put that out there. And as we talk to these groups, when they do book our spaces and we can be able to give this information to them, this is a projection. Like any fiscal projection, anything could change between here and there. The economy could go one way or the other, which will change inflationary pressures up or down. as well as use and everything else. So that's why we want to be kind of flexible with it. It's going to go up for the foreseeable future because we're so far behind. But the level at which it goes up will just
So when you
change.
say we're going to address, I forget who said it, we're going to address it each year and the steps change each year, is that going to happen in a workshop each year? Or is that going to happen at a board meeting? Because we're deciding it now, this is the plan, or we're talking about the plan now, like.
Yeah. So you will approve the plan, and when you approve it, we'll probably have language in there that allows it to flex without it having to come back to the board unless it moves by a certain percentage. So it won't need to come to the board every time because it's not going to be a drastic change, right? Now, if it moved 30% over what was projected, then yeah, it would come back. But if it's just going to go up or down by inflation or use, we don't want to have to reapprove. It's not 660, it's 658. We don't want to have to come back to the board and reapprove that. So the language of the approval will have that built in.
Okay, well, that Trustee Castellanos' point, that's difficult because then if it's not discussed for 4 years in the public, then it does look like we're just jumping. So I don't know if there's a middle ground where it's like, we're not making a decision per se or voting on something, but maybe it's presented. Here's the new grid, or here's the new
Yeah, I mean, we could do
numbers.
that. The other thing is we will be sharing it every year with every group that books. So the groups that are booking will see it as we go through every year. Here's the new projections. Here's what we're
Right.
doing. Here's the new calculation. So while it may not come here, I mean, and I'm famous for saying this, right? There's millions and millions of 6 people watching this board meeting right now. But the actual real communication will be as the Water Polo Club books Capo Valley's pool, here's your information. Every single time they refresh that booking every year or every semester, we're going to give that information to them so that the groups that are impacted stay informed.
Right, and that's, I kind of have the same type of question. That's ongoing past year 5, like, so that we don't get into this position, where there's another 5-year gap, or we can just make this an annual item that,
Yeah, our plan is to not have to, one of the reasons we don't want to set a flat number is then you have to come back, and so then you wait 4 or 5 years because you don't want to, as opposed to setting here's our policy. Our policy is to recoup costs as allowable by ed code. Here's how that calculation works. We're agreeing that. Now, if suddenly the board decided they wanted to use a different calculation, that would have to come back, right? But that's why you do it this way, is so that you're voting on a formula and a policy as opposed to voting on the actual detail, right? Yeah.
So in that formula, it will state basically the rate, because if you said the rate, then you've got the flexibility.
Yeah, it'll have the formula for how it's calculated with the projected rates.
So
The rate might change.
in line with what Trustee Castellano said, could we roll this out starting June a year from now? Not next month, but a year, 13 months out? It just seems like I agree to wait. Yes, we need to get everybody on board. But it's not like that's a one-time thing. And I just hate to see it drag on longer than necessary, because then people will start to forget, even if we tell them in October, by the following September, they've forgotten. Right. Yeah. Right. I also feel like this is a notification that it's going to go up each year, or that it's potentially going up or changing, let's say changing, each year, could just go on the website in the facilities use application form, so that when you fill out that form, it tells you. And then any contracts that we have with groups, it should say something right in there, warning. That will help some, because I think they have to do a facilities use application every year, right? It only lasts a year. Okay, well, that'll help something right there. I just would like to see.
And that's why, I mean, if
rollout.
you talk about a June rollout, most of these groups are going to sign their contracts for next year, July 1. So they're going to be set through July of next year anyways, as they do these
If
one-year
that's the case,
contracts,
fine,
so-
but anything that is expiring sooner, maybe we just should do it sooner. I don't know, okay.
So you're saying that we can't propose as a board to have it start the
No,
school year of
absolutely.
2026, 2027?
You can propose to have it start immediately. I think the meeting you're going to have in September is going to be very different if you do that. Yeah, I mean, because the reality is now you are going to shock people. You're going to surprise them. They didn't know it was coming, and you're going to vote on it in a time when they're not available. So again, that's one of the big feedbacks we've taken, right, over the years of governance, is that if it's a big item that impacts community members across the community, even those who don't go to our schools, trying not to do it in the what they call it, what I get told last year, the dark of the summer, matters, right? And so, as opposed to messaging it, getting it out, and it rolls out the year after that. Again, if we had gotten this work and had been ready to do this a year ago, no problem. Starting at semester, staff could actually explore that, and you could do a 1 semester change, and then it would change again in the year. We want to align it to our fiscal year too. Remember, our book's accounting July 1 to June 30.
Right.
So to have things like that change mid-accounting for us is just very, very challenging for staff.
Right.
So that's where it became, this July 1 is too soon. December,
Which makes
October's
sense,
weird.
because if contracts are they're in their current contract, it's gonna finish, or they will
Right.
be, and it'll finish June. I don't see, unless there are a variety of contracts that have different dates.
So
but-
since you'll be seeing this again, I will have staff look at what it would look like to change it at a different rollout time.
If we didn't change the rollout time, is there a way, is the increase, that study I didn't do, is the increase even every year? Like if it's an $8 increase, it's $8 for each? Any way to step it up and then kind of then down the road project that it is going to be lower? I mean, in our second meeting, we are having to lay off people. So at this same night, I wouldn't be talking about this being able to pay for counselors or whatever staff, but we're already behind the 8 ball. We've been behind the 8 ball. So is there a way to be able to step up?
We
and
could
then
look at
do a
it, we
backslide?
could look at a non-linear increase. I think now it's a 5-year period, so 20%, goes up 20% of the gap each, so we're fully covered the gap. We could look at something that's we could do it, look at something like
Could
that.
increase it a certain rate, and then the following year, it doesn't happen. You could do something like that, so we can explore anything. Sure. I will say that there are districts that are already pursuing this. Recently, San Marcos did it, and they they took a different approach, and I don't want to overstate this, but it kind of blew up, because what was happening is the outreach was happening first before there had landed on this type of formula, and then so it made it very difficult to even make progress, because we were talking about the idea before actually talking about what the idea should be based on data, right? So I think this approach is there's always going to be pushback. That there's going to be pushback, but what we're doing is we're saying, look, this is the data, this is what it is, and it's not fun, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
When we see a place where we can recoup some money, that it's hard to sit here and not,
I totally understand. I want to be very, very clear. Like, we're on a path of cuts for the next foreseeable future years. This in itself would not suddenly get rid of all cuts and allow us to start rehiring, right?
Oh,
So I want to be
know.
very clear. I know it's been stated that it could buy a lot of VCLs or counselors, but we still are sort of on a 6 million per year cutting path. This would mean we only have to cut 4. It doesn't suddenly mean we get to add 2 million back to the budget, right? So it would ease that pain and mean we don't have to hopefully continue downsizing as rapidly, but
Yeah.
it does not guarantee that we'd bring positions back, right? So I just wanted to be
I
very
understand that. It's
clear
just
on that
every
statement.
cut is hard.
Right, and I didn't mean to
So-
imply that. I just meant that this is money that affects
Right.
student learning.
And what we're trying to do as a staff is as we are getting fiscally tight, find places where we're, out of balance with what we should be, and try and fix those first, in a way that we can, right? So,
No, that's super appreciative. That's the work we have to do, and I'm appreciative that we're doing the work.
so staff will explore a nonlinear progression that could start as early as, let's say, the semester, right?
Yeah.
That gives people the fall to learn and a fall to vote, and then we'll bring that back for the board.
Okay, thank you.
So could this be like an information item at a future board soon?
Yeah, it'd probably be, if it's going to be in the semester, you're talking about an August information and a September vote, something like that.
Like, okay,
Or a June information and a September vote or August vote.
okay.
I would just like to leave you with this message. Cities are in the same boat, and I can speak very specifically in the city of Mission Viejo. I mean, they think they can use Saddleback College, or let's go to Capo and see about using their theater when it comes to the performing arts. And we've looked at building a performing art, or an outdoor stage and everything. And it's just like cost prohibitive to spend the city funds. And so, my heart goes to the performing arts and being able to give different avenues for our students to perform even outside of school. Yet everybody is pinched for that, and there's not enough facilities for those who want to be able to.
Yeah, and the numbers for facilities are 20, 30, 40 plus $1 million, right? We're not talking about small numbers, and that's what happens with the hourly.
That's right, yeah. Thank you. So this is just a proposed use of facilities fee schedule, transition plan, and information only, so no board action is necessary. We're now going to move on to Chromebooks, the one-to-one transition for elementary school sites. This is also an information-only item, and no board action is necessary. We're here learning.
Hi.
Thank you.
Vice President Bolicus, trustees. So we are on the precipice of a change of the Chromebook program. As trustees know, during COVID, CUSD had a plan for transitioning to one-to-one Chromebooks prior to that, but it was going to be a much easier transition. But COVID came and it made it a much faster mad rush to one-to-one. So now but we've been through that. We've been looking at some options for revising our Chromebook program to really meet the needs of the kids where they are versus just having it be one-to-one Chromebook everywhere, but to something that's more manageable and more meaningful to the students, especially based on their grade levels. So I'm going to introduce Stephanie Avra, our Chief Technology Officer, to go over the program with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Clark, and good evening, everybody. And if you have questions during the time, please just stop me, and I'm happy to answer as best as I can. So, Chromebook program updates. As Clark mentioned, during the pandemic, it was a mad rush to get every student a Chromebook, and we did it. It wasn't pretty, but we did it. And so now we can sit back and take a look at our program and see and reevaluate and decide how we can change things to make it better for our students, for our staff, and these are some of the changes that we're looking at. So first and foremost, prioritizing age-appropriate learning. So looking at our youngest learners in our pre-K through second grade classrooms. Right now, our pre-K and TK students have a shared cart model where they have basically 3 students per one Chromebook, and the teachers share a cart in a school. The students do not take those Chromebooks home, and that will remain the same. In kindergarten, we have a full cart in each kindergarten classroom, and those don't go home as well. We're going to look at first grade and second grade tonight to see the changes we're going to make for the next school year. We would like to emphasize hands-on, collaborative, and teacher-led instruction in the foundational years instead of looking at a screen. I will tell you that throughout this year, I've had the opportunity to go to lots of classrooms, visit lots of classrooms from the kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade. And you would think as a CTO, I would want to see the Chromebooks out as much as I possibly could. That is not the case. I don't see them as much as the community thinks that they are out there. Probably 10% of the time when we've gone to classrooms, we've seen Chromebooks on students' desks, which is a nice thing to see. The other reason why we need to shift this change is because of our fiscal priorities. And so there has been a significant increase in Chromebook device costs over the past several years, specifically this year. Last year, we paid $340 per Chromebook. They are now $540 per Chromebook, so a $200 increase per device. So for one grade level, that's about $600,000 extra dollars a year. So we have to look at how we can accommodate not buying as many devices because we just can't afford it. And then we would also like to shift to more shared smaller carts in our younger grades, especially in our kindergarten classrooms, because in our kindergarten classrooms, full room instruction on Chromebooks is just not age appropriate. They should be in small groups, working with volunteers or with teacher aides, instead of a full group of kindergarten students on Chromebooks. Google, when we first adopted Chromebooks, I don't know, 12, 15 years ago, every time we got a device, Google would give us a 4-year license. And so that's how long they would last. Now the license is 10 years. So Google has expanded the lifespan of a Chromebook to 10 years. And so this allows us to hopefully make them last longer instead of just the 4 or the 3 or the 5 years that we have been using and refreshing them. And devices are better made now, and they can be used for longer periods of time. Our Chromebook program has evolved over the last 3 or 4 years, and students are taking better care of our Chromebooks. We're putting cases on our Chromebooks that we send out in middle school, because they are our toughest users on our Chromebooks. Teaching middle school for 30 years, I knew that was going to happen. But anyways, so we put cases on those, and we've seen a significant decrease in damage. So they are lasting longer. And then when we have fewer devices going home with the students, traveling from the backpack into the home, back to the backpack to the classroom, there's lower repairs, lower replacement. They're not losing them, and so that's better as well. And also, if you have a Chromebook cart in a classroom and you control that Chromebook is charged overnight, you don't have to worry about the student bringing their Chromebook to school. Is it charged? And so it's a significant increase in instruction time for teachers as well. Any questions so far? Awesome.
Pardon me, are we, I understand this is what's going on now. Are we going to be talking about proposals for changing?
Yes, that's the next slide.
Great, okay. Oh, I didn't get another slide. Oh,
It's only a 2-page
But-
presentation.
but
I'd like to
this-
point that out.
this represents the current situation, does
This-
it not?
No, it does not.
Oh, okay, all right,
Okay.
okay. It looked like a little Mattel symbol, so I,
I tried to fit it on one slide. I like to be efficient. Anyways, so as I'm going to go through this, so we look at the pre-K, TK for next year, for the 26-27 school years. Nothing is going to change for pre-K, TK. We're going to keep that shared cart 3-to-1 ratio. Usage policy stays the same. It's classroom use only, and they do not take the Chromebooks home. So nothing is going to change for pre-K and TK.
so I wonder if Trustee Castellanos, who teaches TK, do you have Chromebooks in your TK classroom?
We have iPads.
You have
iPads.
iPads?
Yep.
And do you have one-to-one in your classroom?
Probably. I
Okay.
probably have 20 in there, yeah.
All right. I guess I'm just,
Mostly used for small group instruction, like my math program's online.
I'm just really dubious about the need for Chromebooks in PK and TK. I don't see it at all. And some parents have the technology at home, and that's fine. I just don't see it at that age.
Well, I will tell you, the data shows that they are not used very often in pre-K, TK.
Yeah.
We do have touchscreen Chromebooks in our pre-K, TK, and kindergarten classrooms.
Yeah.
However, we did not want to make any changes to pre-K, TK for this coming year.
For this coming year, I understand. We're too close to it happening. I was
Right.
telling somebody recently who was like, do this next year. And I said, in our minds, we are already in next year. So I get that. But I don't support
So,
devices in pre-K and TK.
so I will say that at some point, the board is probably going to work on what does screen use look like overall
Okay.
in our district. This is more of a, based on where we are, how do we make a quick change to someplace closer to
Okay.
where we'd like to be?
All right.
As we then continue this work over the next year.
Okay.
So this is this year's, and there is some changes coming this year. There'll probably be more changes in the future, one way or the other, but this is a way we can get started. It's programmatic, so the board didn't have to vote on this. We could just get this change moving, and now we can get the board then activated around
Okay.
policy work.
Okay, kindergarten. So there will be a change for kindergarten next year. For 26-27, the classrooms will receive smaller Chromebooks, carts. There will be 15 to 20 devices in the cart. There's a typo on the one that's on your page. I apologize. It says 15 to 30. It should say 15 to 20 devices because of small group instruction. So anytime we visit a kindergarten classroom, we see small group instruction for Chromebooks. We don't really see full group instruction, and it's age appropriate for a small group. The
How many do
usage,
they currently have then?
they have 32 to 36.
Okay.
And so we will need to buy new carts for a Chromebook, the smaller carts, because we will be using the carts that are currently in kindergarten, we will be moving those to second grade. So, because second grade do not have carts this year. So the usage policy remains the same in kindergarten. It will be classroom use only. They do not take Chromebooks home currently, and they will continue to not take them home. And they will be for classroom use only. First grade, there's one change this summer because they will be leaving first grade and entering second grade in the fall. They will not be taking Chromebooks home over the summer because their Chromebooks will be living in carts in second grade. So usually we would give the first graders their Chromebooks and they would take them home over the summer. We will not be doing that this year because in second grade, their Chromebooks will live in carts and they will not be taking them home on a daily basis. So really the only change for first graders, and they won't even recognize this because it's never happened to them before. They've never taken Chromebooks home, and they will continue not taking them home over the summer as well. Second grade. So our second graders, who will be incoming third graders, will take their Chromebooks home over the summer, as they have done in previous years. Because when they enter third grade, we will still have one-to-one devices, and they will need that Chromebook when they start third grade. However, the new second graders that were first graders this year, when they come into second grade in 26-27, will have new Chromebooks in the carts that we moved from kindergarten into second grade. So we've already purchased those Chromebooks. I purchased them before the price went up. So they're sitting in our warehouse getting managed. And so we will put those into the carts over the summer in the second grade classrooms, and they will be ready for the second graders when they enter the school in the fall. They will not, this will be new for our second graders, they will not be taking Chromebooks home on a daily basis next year. They will stay in the carts. They will have full-size carts because they will be getting the kindergarten carts. We'll be moving those. It's kind of an even swap too, which is kind of nice. Any questions on that? Those are the biggest changes for next year.
You go. Ahead. Okay. Well, I'm dying to know why the third, fourth, and fifth graders do take them home for summer. Because I know I get a lot of
That was my
complaints about
question
that.
too.
I love the idea of carts. I'm so glad that we're reducing usage, and I know a lot of parents will be thrilled. I just don't know why we would send them home if it increases the chances of damage, and
Well,
we could just.
remember, we started this policy during the pandemic when they needed the Chromebooks at home, right? And so now we're reevaluating the policy. And right now, in third, fourth, and fifth grade, we don't have carts. And we can't afford to just put carts back into every classroom. Carts are about $1,500 each. So if you have 100 classrooms, that's like $150,000 to put carts back into a classroom. And also, we wanted to do a gradual for the teachers who need to get adjusted to the idea of not sending Chromebooks home with their students.
Yeah, you remember, these kids already have their Chromebooks. They don't get a new one every year. They get assigned one and they keep it kind of in perpetuity until they get a new one in sixth grade.
Sixth grade.
So that one's been at home. It's been going home. For third, fourth, and fifth graders, nothing's changing. It's status quo. It's not like we're giving them one to suddenly take home. They were taking one home as a second grader this year, right? So this allows us to go, the kids who have never taken one home will still never take one home. The kids who have been taking them home will still take them home, as we, again, try and balance the budgetary requirements with the rollout of a change, and then give the board, again, that year to think about, so what does it look like in third, fourth, fifth? What do teachers feel about it? How do we get all that work done? As well as not go spend a ton of money to suddenly try and recollect Chromebooks and put them in carts that we don't own.
Right.
Right.
Sorry. If you're number 24, you use number 24 Chromebook, and you're responsible for that and maintaining it that year. There's just so much access to it. And some of these parents don't allow their kids to have devices, and then all of a sudden they have the schools giving them a device and at home. It's just one more thing.
And we can definitely continue to work with parents on Custodio, because they can completely shut it down when it's at home. They can make it so that it's unusable by a child
I
at
know,
home.
it's just
So-
one more thing. I'm just telling you, as like a mom of 5 kids, it's like one more thing. Like, you're trying to control so many things, and then it's like, wait, I'm missing a Chromebook. Where is it? Like, it's just a lot.
Well, and so then as we talk about the future years and what that looks like, that'll be part of the work of the board to go, what does that look like? But again, there's a cost associated with suddenly trying to buy 3 grades of carts.
Right, but there's no cost just collecting them at the end of the year.
There's nowhere to put them.
We have nowhere to put them.
There's nowhere to put them. There's no storage, there's no cart, there's nothing, that you have to have
I'm
something.
thinking of just a stack in the back of the room.
That they don't survive well when they stay unplugged for an entire summer and all stacked on each other. So that would not be the greatest for us.
But we are considering phasing that whole take home or the summer out, right? I mean, we don't want to do it this year because of all those things.
Well, we're doing one of the grades this year.
I understand that, and I don't like it, but I accept it. But I do feel that, I mean, early 2000s, it was like, we need more technology. All parents were clamoring for more technology, and now those parents are saying, we need less technology. And I agree with those parents.
Well, there's probably a balance, right? There's a lot of research out
yes.
there. It's not just the screen, but it's what's on the screen, what they're
Absolutely.
looking, what they're doing with it. They're going to go into a world that is tech-based. So we
Absolutely.
do have to have that in there. So that'll be the work of the board in terms of, like, what is that belief on how much screen time, how it is, right? But you also remember, our teachers have completely built their homework and everything else to be Chromebook-based, as they had to because of COVID. So getting that done, having a whole shift in homework also, because it's not just a shift in screens, it's a shift
Right.
in how they do homework. Do they do homework? So it's a bigger
Okay.
discussion.
And we've based a lot of this on surveys with our teachers, with all of our elementary teachers, of how we could roll this out. And so this is where this plan started, with surveying all of our teachers, and starting with 1 grade level seems to be, the way that we can start the process, and they get the idea, and then maybe in later years adding a grade level per year. And then we can afford it because we can add those carts back in.
Yeah, I think there's a happy medium that you got to figure out where that sweet spot lies, because I think as we continue to move forward as a society, we're not going to stop testing digitally. That's just not going to stop. So to not prepare our students on that test online they come in with a pretty significant disadvantage. And not even just the state testing, but AR, everything that they do in their reading world, they have some type of an assessment online. So I think there's a space that you can find, you know, educational use and the value that it brings versus, you know, hanging out on YouTube or flipping through massive amounts of videos. I think there's a big difference, and I think we have to define that as a school district and a board. I think the pendulum likes to swing in education. And we like to swing all the way one way, and then we swing all the way back. But like, can we find that happy space where parents are okay with it and the school district is okay with it, and we still see student
Yeah, I
achievement
mean, and
moving
that's kind of
forward?
where we're at. The research is nuanced, right? Like, you've got some people who are like, all screens are bad. Some people are like, we need tech everywhere. And the reality is it's in the middle, right? And so we need to look at that research. I mean, Stephanie's heard me say this. In my perfect world, the current group of students who have never taken a Chromebook home in elementary school won't take a Chromebook home. So they're not going to take it home next year in second grade. And then depending what the board does, what I'm going to push for is that they won't take it home the following year in third grade, the following year in fourth, right? We'll kind of move that out, work with our teachers, get our policy right. We'll continue on the path of that work. That's where I like to be. Now, of course, we'll hear from the public, we'll hear from our teachers, we'll hear from the board, and that plan could get changed. But I don't want to go all or nothing all at once, because I don't want to end up bouncing back and forth as well, right? So I think everyone's pretty clear, K1, 2, they don't need to take them home, and then we'll move on from there. We can have, but that's kind of where, I mean, Stephanie's heard me say that before, and so she created this plan to sort of meet that sort of goal that I had, and then I know that some of you are interested in working this, so we're going to, and we will continue to bring more information through the year.
Okay, and then the last 3 grade levels will not change next year. So, but like Dr. Brown says, we do have a plan, but it has to be worked out with everybody involved for the next 3 years, 3 or 4 years. The other thing that I want to make, this doesn't involve elementary, it involves middle school students. Normally we refresh our Chromebooks in first grade, 6th grade, and 9th grade. Well, this year, this 26-27, we're refreshing in 2nd grade. And we are not refreshing in 6th grade and 9th grade because of the costs of Chromebooks. We're going to wait for them to come down. When they first gave me the costs in January, they were $540. Now they're down to $480. So because of the increased license of Google, it allows us to wait out the device cost. And so next year, our 5th graders who will be entering 6th grade will take their Chromebooks that they've had since 1st grade, and they will use those in 6th grade. And then in 7th grade, they will get a new Chromebook, and that will last them until they graduate. And so we will do a 2-year, 2 grade level refresh and from now on, instead of a 3 grade level refresh, which will save us about $1 million a year.
And Stephanie did a good job working on a plan like that. By being able to do that over the next couple of years, that helps us offset the cost of carts and not have the carts be this huge expense, because we're stretching Chromebook use. So save money in the Chromebooks, buy the carts, and then we can roll out our plan.
Are there any further questions or comments?
I'm grateful to see these changes. This is definitely the direction I want to see, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to B1. I'd like to recognize Greg Merwin, Associate Superintendent, Education Support Services, to present the following education and support service items.
All right, let's get going. Thank you, Vice President Bullicus and trustees. Staff presents this item as a follow-up to the 2 resolutions that you approved at the April 22nd board meeting regarding South County virtual schools, currently operating as Cal Prep Academy. Tonight's presentation was going to provide you with some additional information regarding how South County Virtual is providing families with different program options and flexibility. It's going to include information like logistics, enrollment, courses, and ways we can provide a secure online learning environment for our students. So Principal Michael Hatcher is here, and he will be leading us through a brief presentation. Please stop us with questions along the way.
And
Go
again,
ahead, Michael.
this is an information-only item. There will be no board action necessary.
All right, good evening, everybody. Happy to be here with you tonight to share about all the wonderful things we got going on. So first with this presentation, just wanted to kind of update of kind of the current status of our enrollment in our school. Currently with the students that we have sitting in our classes, we offer multiple options for the students in CUSD. One, we offer 100% online students. We also offer what's called hybrid students. And so you see the numbers there. We have almost 400 students in our school in either the 100% online or the hybrid option. The one thing I do want to point out is that those two groups of students are the students that we get ADA for South County Virtual. So that's how we, and then with the independent study, students have to take a minimum of 4 courses in order to get full ADA with independent study. We also offer single course enrollments for students in high schools. We also manage all the students in IPE. And at the high school, there's a small cohort of students taking geometry that we offer the enrollment for them as well. So these are our enrollment numbers for our high school.
Just to clarify, IPE is the independent PE for our kids who qualify because they are, you know, world or nationally ranked in a certain thing that we don't offer, or ice hockey players or a few other things. So they take independent PE as opposed to having to take PE because they're traveling for their sport at a international or national level.
Yeah. And also for medical reasons as well. So students, we also offer the medical PE that has to be approved by a nurse and site admin. The one thing I did want to point out is that these are record numbers in our school. This is my second year in this position, and I know that as one branch of the district, we want to offer these options for our students to keep students in our district. Our fully 100% virtual numbers is the 97 is actually up 45% from the previous year, and the hybrid students is actually it's almost double from the previous year. So the students that we are receiving ADA for has increased significantly in just 1 year with the changes that we've made recently. And the single course enrollment has actually increased by 47% from the previous year. So there's a lot more kids taking classes online in just my short time there.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
462 single course students that are taking 4 to 5 classes at their home high school. Is there a way that we can look at that number? I'm just curious why they're doing that. And I'd love to see what classes are people not going to at their class because they're choosing the online option instead. I would love to see.
I would say the number one reason we see it is because they want to build a hole into their schedule to take another CCA course or another science course or another AP course, right? So it's a way that they can get 7 classes instead of 6 to make themselves more competitive. So if I can offset a course at independent, and then now I can go take my elective that I wanted, or my dance, or my music, or my PE, or sport, and take my robotics, or my medical terminology, or whatever, right? Because often what the problem is, especially sophomore and junior year, kids, they can't take everything they have to take and take a performing art or a sport and take a CCA course, but they want to take it all, which makes total sense. So they try to offload a core course. Now, obviously, they don't take CCA courses at Capo Virtual because they don't have them. So it's your English, your math, your history classes that they offload because those are the courses that are offered over there, so they can get another hole into their schedule. But
What are the
there's a
ones?
problem with that.
English,
History and math, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, we offer single courses in all of our subjects. Currently this year, we don't offer math and PE. We are going to be opening it up to more, but we do see general trends that the class that students take significantly more is English, and it's definitely the senior level English, and then also the social studies. So the U.S. history, the government at the junior, senior level.
Which also would allow them to leave school earlier and then work.
And so the reason you know it's for that purpose is because you can see their schedules and that they have sports. I mean, I'm just curious how you know that that's the trend. or
Yeah,
that
because we've
that's
talked to
the-
principals, and we can audit it as well and look. And one of the things that my class to do is talk to the principals, because at some point, if too many kids try to take one class, you have a problem, right? Because they don't count as ADA for the independent study, which means I have no way to pay a teacher to teach that class for them in independent study. So they're draining where the teacher is and putting it where a teacher isn't. So they're limited to the number of classes, like the number of single classes that can be taken.
Right.
And so all the schools have tried to go up.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more detail about single courses later on.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'll give an example because I had a parent write me that from San Juan Hills High School, 100 students wanted English, 47 got in, and students who want to take song and cheer and the other electives, well, what can they take? English. But my concern that we should be looking at is now we're talking about students taking English and history. And we have a lot of parents that say, why don't you just teach English and math and history? And now we've got kids online teaching themselves our core courses so that they can take more electives. So, I mean, I don't know that we can put a stop to that, but students have found a way to be able to take more classes that they want to take
Right.
and using it in that way.
Yeah.
And that was not our intention in offering this,
Right.
to
I
help
don't,
students.
and I don't have a problem with it. I'm just curious, why do they all choose English? Like, why? To me, it's a little bit like, what's happening in our English classes that people are choosing something else? That's the only thing I'm thinking, is why is that?
Yeah, we can run an audit too. I mean, the reality is if you want to take AP biology, it's probably not as easy to get that in independent, right? So they're taking a class that they consider.
Right, but
Easier to do
history
online?
is not being chosen. I'm just,
Yeah,
it's just
we'll run an
curious to
audit,
me.
but I
Yeah.
think history is being chosen. Yeah, history is being chosen.
No, we have students taking all levels. We have students taking science and math and electives as well. It's just the majority is with the English and the history. And we've talked to principals. I've had numerous conversations. I was a principal at least in Gale High School. And so it is the idea that of all the courses, what are the courses that are more accessible online that, because we got very motivated students, that they can learn independently.
Right,
And English is the most accessible subject area.
right.
And so, and it's not AP Lit, it's not AP Lang, it's our college prep level, English 4, English 3, US History and Government. Those are our top 4 classes that kids take more than others, but we have students taking Spanish in singleton courses.
Yeah.
And when we consult with families, they always say, well, which one should we take? And I actually say the area that your student is probably the strongest in, because
Right.
they're motivated to sit and can go through the curriculum independently. The subject that you struggle the most, that's the one you got to be in person.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
why our math numbers are like
Right.
0,
'Cause you
right?
need an
Because
instructor.
and everyone and even our hybrid students, those are the classes that they're taking at the sites is the math but it varies for everybody.
Right.
But in
And-
the conversations with the counselors and all this, because we asked the same exact question, why English, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm going to have 4 full-time English teachers at my school, for this.
And I'm not saying I don't want to shut it down. I want those students to have that option because I want them to have that flexibility. So I'm not saying that we should shut it down. I was just curious what information we can get from those numbers, that's all.
And I just caution everyone that it's very expensive to then offer teachers at the site and the teachers there, right? We're basically paying for an extra course without receiving ADA, right? You don't get any more money from the state because the kid takes 7 versus 6 or 6 versus 5 as a senior, right? So if the kid takes 4 at home and 1 at independent study and then goes to work, that actually, like, we're now having to staff for that, but we're not getting any additional income from the state for that. So there is a point at which we can't offer it to everybody because it'll become very expensive.
So if they're on campus 4 to 5 classes, we're not getting ADA for that kid?
The school we get it, but we're paying for the teachers at the school because we still have to full load the teachers.
Got it.
So now to add another teacher to offer the online, that's an extra
You're not getting
expense.
additional ADA?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Provide the online
Right.
teacher? Got it.
So now we're basically hiring extra teachers for the same number of kids.
The other thing about English is it's the only high school class that you have to take 4 times. You don't have to take 4 classes of math. You only have to take 3 of social science. And I think only 1 or 2 of science to graduate. So that's one that you have to take. And particularly a student that wants to graduate a year early, that's the only class that is difficult for you to fit in is your fourth English class.
Yeah, and at the senior level, the only two required courses is English and the social studies. All the rest are electives that students choose for higher level science, CTE, electives. That's when they really get into the meat of where they like to explore their time. And there's obviously so many great programs at all of our schools that our students are choosing that. And so it all kind of works together because my school overall is very senior heavy and then junior heavy. And then with the sophomores and freshmen, sophomores is smaller in numbers. But we'll definitely get into more that in a little bit in the presentation. And then, so next is just our current enrollment at our independent study middle school. Again, the numbers there for the online, 100% online and hybrid. We do not offer singletons at the middle school level because of just there's not as many hybrid students. And so the disparity in the staffing isn't really there as compared to the high school. And also too, there's real no need or want for necessarily for a middle school student to have one less class on campus. They're not going to leave early. They don't have work. They don't have all those other things. So it's just not really a thing with our middle school program. But we do have a bigger increase in the IPE students. There's definitely a lot more middle school students with the high level of athletics at the middle school level. And so these are current. And so these enrollment numbers are similar to what we've seen in the past. And so next is the changes to the independent study offerings. And so the biggest change for the high school is that we moved to Saddleback College this year. So we're currently at Saddleback College. And so we will be starting with our first cohort of our middle college program starting in the fall. We currently have 14 students enrolled. And what do you know? We had 14 apply. So they're all at grade level. So they're all in. So that was great. And we specifically had 4 students that are coming from current home or private schools. So we're bringing these additional students back into our school district. We recently, I think today, signed our 5-year MOU agreement facilities that all of you approved recently. So very excited for that. And our students will be adding, again, an avid support for our middle college program that will be starting in the fall. And then our biggest change for our middle school is going through lots of changes. Obviously, the name change. We are going to be moving to the Tutor Time building next to Ambule, where currently CRLA is occupying. So we will be moving to that facility. We'll be starting our Elite Performance Academy, and currently we have 23 students enrolled into that, grades 6 to high school prep. And so the number breakdown is there. Of those 23 students, we have 4 students, again, coming from outside the district that's currently in private or home schools. So these are students being added back into our school district. And these students, again, will be independent study students, but having the opportunity for in-person instruction. We're going to be having more of a hybrid feel for these students. We're having in-person academic sessions. And we're also going to be offering the post 8th grade high school prep year.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Well, it's actually more of I guess it's a question. I love seeing that we're bringing some kids back to the district, and I'm wondering what we're doing to promote this program, to get it out into the community so that homeschool, private school, charter school kids know about it and want to come back.
Yeah. I know personally, I went to every single PTA meeting at the middle school level that would have me. So I got to see all the schools. That was super awesome. Trying to get the word out because I know the PTAs are the hub of each school. We offered 4 parent information meetings. 3 of them were in person at 3 of our middle schools. We also offered 1 virtual. We probably had total probably a couple hundred people show up for those. The virtual meeting that we had, we video recorded, and so it's currently online. So all the information for our school is there. So anybody can hear me talk some more, it's online. And so that's the promotion that we've put out. We have continued enrollment and also the other advertisements
Yeah,
at the district
our
level.
communications office also put it out multiple times on our social media channels to advertise it broadly to the community as well.
Okay.
And we also featured it in our parent workshop series. So we did that, recorded that as
Right.
well, showed that online as well.
All right.
And so definitely with something like this, obviously with word of mouth is going to be our best. So I think once we move into the facility, I mean, even in my presentation, there was a picture of, sports equipment and kids are like, oh, is that the gym? No, that's just the stock Google image. And so just going on the faith of the proposal is kind of where we're at. So once we move in and we have our facility and they can see it in action, I think we're going to have a huge increase in enrollment.
And new information, we also paid for print advertising in the cities of San Juan, San Clemente, and Dana Point as well. So we also did some broader outreach to try and get families who maybe don't have any connection to a family in Capo. San
So
Juan,
I was
San Clemente,
on Facebook on the Laguna Niguel neighborhood group this morning. And there was a person that's, I think was anonymous and said, they checked out such and such elite academy, not ours, and they were very unimpressed. And does anybody have any ideas? A teacher that I know, some of you might know Brenda Wallace, piped up and said, guess what, CUSD has one of these. And then there were the questions about, more about that. She probably went into her classroom, but I answered them. But I have been to, as you know, 2 of the presentations. And some people might say I'm easily confused. I don't know that I am, but I am still really confused about all these. There's a lot of them. If we had added 1 per year, maybe I would have kept better track. But I think for a parent, it is confusing. And I'm wondering if, we have on our website, we have elementary, middle, high school. And I wonder if we need a whole section for all the other stuff, the virtual and hybrids, and explain in great detail what's there and point to the slide decks, et cetera, because I think it is really hard for people to figure out what these all are. And people have asked me since I went to those presentations, and I'll start to give an answer, and then I realize I don't really know. It's complicated. You know it's complicated.
Yeah.
And somebody asked me recently do we still have Cal Prep? I think we do, but I'm not 100% sure that it's not just a name change. So, I mean, if I'm confused, everybody's confused. Well, you're not. But
Can we do
but
more of a
truly, it's
visual,
confusing.
like some type of visual where it's like Stephanie, yeah, like instead of in a slide deck, but more of just it's all in
Yeah,
on
maybe
one
like
page as a visual, like this is a K-5 school and this, and then
Yeah.
this is, Stephanie just got a great visual with Chromebooks, right? It just depicted each grade. It was very easy to read. And maybe if we could kind of figure out a way to define our schools hybrid online, but in a very colorful.
something that looks
That
more like
it's
this.
just-
And
Yeah.
Michael has developed something like
Okay.
that, and we have shared it with our
All right.
CCPTSA when he's presented to them. We can get that out and make sure, I think you were sharing that too in your sessions. It's a
Yeah.
visual that we can do, very similar, it's already built.
It's just so confusing. And again, I have been to the presentations and I paid attention.
Yeah, no, we have in our flyers that we produce, there's a breakdown of the 3 different programs and what are the differences and the nuances of it. And it really is because it's new and of what are the different options. And we're trying to, because of the different offerings and what that looks like, it will take time for us to get that out to, and also to see it, right? Of when we have the buildings, we have the teachers doing this, we can take pictures of our students, our teachers using in our buildings, and being able to provide tours and all this. I mean, when I was standing in front of the parents, I barely could say what building we were going to be in. And so that's, as a parent, right? I have a 6th grader and a 7th grader, right? If I'm going to sign up for a school, I want to know where it's going to be at. Where am I going to drop my kid off? So in going through this process and getting the information out, Again, once we're there and we're moved in and all the things, then we could really start taking, I mean, we have motivated parents that are part of this. Almost every single parent I talk to, they love the program. They want to help get the word out. And it's just finding different avenues to do that, for sure.
One last, oh,
That in our board update so we can have it. I would like to get the information out to the public as well, but it's easier for me to send a visual to them to kind of explain the programs. Oh, thank you very much.
yeah, one last thing I would say about the marketing is that the families that are not educating their students at CUSD, this is the time of the year where they're making changes or they're deciding, is this a good fit where I'm at? So now would be the time to really push the marketing and like fly it a lot, because people change their minds, they change a program, especially going from elementary to middle school. It's a whole nother thing. And so if they see there's independent study options, the sports option, the middle college, all of it, this is the time to hit it. Yeah.
100%. We actually had a just recent enrollment meeting where there was a parent that wanted to enroll, and then they're like, what's your capacity? I have an entire team that wants to come over. And we're like, come on down, we're here. So, but yes, no, that's definitely front of mind for all of us as well. So I know there was questions about our enrollment process. We are just constantly enrolling in both the high school and the middle school. So we start with just an informational video. We used to make parents come in person for an in-person presentation, but now it's just a video that's online that people can access at any time. And then really we families set up enrollment appointments. And that is when they sit down with our staff, because there's so many different options, and we kind of craft their students' educational plan of what works for them, of what class do you take on campus? What class do you take with us? And we review all that information. So that's our most updated current enrollment status. And again, we are currently on pace. Even though we had huge increases, we are on pace to our current numbers. So we're looking at that jump is most likely going to stay at that current rate. Because of independent study, the nature of independent study, we get a lot of enrollments like the week before school. And this was the first year that we opened our doors and kept enrolling students at the high school. We enrolled students all the way to the 6th and 7th week mark, which was difficult with, partial credits and all the things. And so we were enrolling students for the first 6 weeks, and definitely saw the increase in enrollment. So with that trend, and that's a continual trend with independent study that we know we will continue. And then for the single course enrollments, currently we have 319 students enrolled for next year. And this is where we started putting kind of the brakes on this. When we first put this out, because in previous years, we hadn't really been kind of keeping track of this and caps. In the first 2 weeks of the single course enrollment form that was out, we had almost 300 students go through the process. And so the counselor, the parent first starts the paperwork. It goes to the counselor. They sign off on it. It goes to the high school AP, and then we enroll. So in those first 2 weeks, I saw the numbers, and I'm like, whoa, we cannot maintain this, because of what Dr. Brown was saying, is that as a district, we're already paying for the student at their home high school. They can't double pay for them to be with us. So the main way this is the idea with single course enrollments is because if my hybrid student is taking one or two of their elective courses or their sport or math at their home high school, that's increasing the students in the home high school's seats. And so in order to even it out, then I would take a single course students. So then the actual number of physical students in the actual classroom is equal. And so we looked at those enrollments. So this is the first year that I provided all the sites with caps of that. These are based upon the students that are my hybrid students sitting in your classes. These are the number of open seats of students that I can take from you. And so that is to be fiscally, responsible, so we're not paying for students twice. And so this is the first year why I put caps on all the schools. Now, as more students get enrolled and more students are coming with us and sitting in those seats at the high schools, then we will raise that cap for each, if there's students that need additional those single course enrollments. And all the high schools are managing that on their own, because I know each high school has a different community and different needs. And so those assistant principals and principals are managing how they want to approve the single course enrollments.
Do you know how some of them did it? Like, I'm just curious how it varied from school, or generally what schools were doing. Even though
Yeah.
they're different, but.
So really, there was only 2 schools where the need exceeded the cap. Yeah, and so San Juan Hills is one of them. So they went to, we basically, of the 300, probably 200 of them were from San Juan Hills at the very beginning. So I worked with Sina and Alex, and they wanted to just start from scratch. So we just disenrolled all the students from San Juan Hills, and then they did a lottery system, and they did their priorities based upon their needs. And so that was the communication out to the community, and then we re-enrolled the students that won the lottery or from their priority. At one of the other schools where they were getting close to the cap, they didn't exceed the cap, but they were getting close. They were just, okay, we know we're getting close to the number, and so they were managing it as they saw fit at their site. And the other 4 sites, their enrollment has kind of traditionally been well under the cap, and so that I established. So they were just kind of approving as it came, or what met their needs. So, yeah. And then for the middle school, we actually have it's a lot more open with the enrollment process. We enroll students pretty much all year, except for just kind of like right now, we wouldn't enroll a student fresh to our school right now in the last 6 weeks. It just doesn't make sense because it takes a couple weeks just to kind of get a student up and running. But our middle schoolers, we're constantly enrolling students. It's much easier to enroll students because we don't have transfer credits and transfer grades, and also middle schools are on a quarter system. So it's just much easier to bring middle school students in. So we're just constantly enrolling our students at the middle school level. All right, so instructional changes. So obviously we take pride in the fact that we are a CUSD school and that the education our students get at the same level as all of our comprehensive. Our students move on as you guys come and attend our graduation. You hear the places that our students go. They go to all the Cal States, UCs, all the things. It doesn't prevent them at all. So we take pride in the fact that we have high level of rigor in our school, and that is a CUSD education, and we want to make sure that stays in place. So for our instructional changes is that we've been using the FlexPoint online curriculum for a number of years. And recently this year, we moved it to Canvas. So students would access all the online curriculum through Canvas. We've also moved to a 100% online capability. So before, we would require students to come in person to take tests. And the feedback we got from our community and our students is that was a barrier for students choosing the online independent study, because if they want to be online in independent study and have the freedom, they want the independent study part of the independent study, right? And so forcing students to come in person was creating that barrier. So we switched to now there is we do have capability for students to be 100% online. And then, so we've been kind of consolidating all this, and as a parent myself and understanding when I first stepped foot on campus, students that had at Cal Prep had to access their curriculum, they could possibly be logging into 3 different locations to access the different classes. And so I'm very proud to say that now, starting in this spring, students only have to log into 1 location, Canvas, and everything is there. And also too, because of the hybrid option, so many students are hybrid, their online courses their classes at their home sites are on Canvas. So just one-stop shop, all the things on Canvas. And so super excited for that. Now at the middle school level, when I first got to this position, the middle school was kind of doing things differently. They used a different online curriculum and were just functionally running differently. But now that Cal Prep has gone away, has sunsetted, and Capital Virtual has sunsetted, and we are now a collective South County Virtual Academy, grades 6 to 12. We obviously wanted to have a seamless transition and experience and look and feel by the families and students from the middle school to the high school. So all the things that we have in place at the high school is going to be implemented at the middle school. And so all those changes are there. We are changing from Ingenuity to FlexPoint curriculum. We're moving to Canvas full integration. Currently, students get credit, no credit. We're moving to letter grades. We added accelerated courses to mirror our in-person middle schools. We will be operating the Honor Lock system, virtual testing program, and all things on Canvas to mirror the experience. So students that are with us in middle school will have the same experience, look and feel as when they get to high school. So very proud of that. Alrighty. So academic integrity. Obviously, as an online independent study educator, we know the memes, right? Of like kids are just going to AI everything and cheat everything, and I work from home, and we're just kind of there, and all the things. And so we take academic integrity seriously, and we spend a lot of time and effort in safeguards to ensure, again, that we have a CUSD level education, world-class education, and that coming to us virtually, there's no change in the rigor. It's just experiencing the information in a different way. So the guardrails that we have, I mean, by state law with all independent study, we have a master agreement. So this is our master agreement. This is the agreement spells out all of the rules and regulations about what it means to be an independent study student. We also provide our students with an orientation. So it's a full module orientation of all of our rules and regulations at our school that every student has to complete every single semester before they can get started on their coursework. This is our intervention plan. And so as you can see through the tiers of intervention, we have our tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4. At moving from each tier involves a warning letter. So we have a warning letter system, which I'll go in more detail in a second. As you can see, it gets progressive as it goes. And so a student that gets a warning letter, that is for any violation of the master agreement. So it could be for academic integrity, it could be for not making adequate academic progress, it could be for any violation that a student would have. This is essentially my discipline matrix that I use for kind of everything. I can't really suspend a kid. I mean, I could suspend a kid, but it doesn't hit the same, right, on the online school. So this is my intervention plan. Okay. So again, with the warning letters, as you can see, the different levels of what we do, and the statistics from fall is that over 80, about almost 80% of our students are not having a single violation of the master agreement and doing everything that they need to do. Now at the course level, to make sure to ensure academic integrity is that with the online curriculum, I think the biggest thing is that they built in is they have what's called discussion-based assessments. It's basically a one-on-one meeting that a student has with the teacher, and they talk through an assessment versus an online just multiple choice. I mean, we have that as well, but this is one essential part that is involved in a lot of our history classes, Spanish, English, and in all of our courses that the students do this to ensure academic integrity.
Michael, excuse me, before you keep going, a quick question on the integrity. A parent had shared with me the warning to letter, but it was my understanding, the parent said to me, so I'm verifying, that if there's a third infraction of cheating, they're removed they can no longer they're out of independent study. Is that correct?
Yeah, because that would be considered a violation of the master agreement. And
Okay.
so it's if it's multiple ways, and if students are continually, if I just can't trust the kid to turn anything, because they're attending schools based upon completing work. And so, I mean.
So they get a first chance, they get a second, and then the third you're out?
Or I have a discussion. I mean, each case is unique. And so kind of looking at, yeah, no, I mean, it's, again, to move the different levels, I mean, we have a full SST meeting where the parents, the student, all the teachers are involved, and the counselor. We have a support plan of how to move forward. And then also too, if it does reach another time, then I sit down with the parent and just try to discuss and see what's the best course of action. And so we do reach a point where it just doesn't make sense to dismiss a student. Like I wouldn't dismiss a student right now. It would be, you know, you can stay with us, you know, make sure you get your grades, and then you may not come back at next quarter.
They either go back to a CUSD school or they homeschool or whatever their parent can find for them to do, right?
Well, they have a guaranteed spot at their home school.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so this is a voluntary program, and so by law, we have to offer, I mean, a spot at their home
Right.
school, and so
But
they
some
would
of
just
them
go.
have probably come from a private school, a charter school, whatever, to come into this program.
Yeah, but they're still guaranteed a spot in their school of residence where they live.
Right.
So yes, they can definitely stay with us. They just can't stay online necessarily. They need more in-person support.
Because usually by then you could tell an independent study. Most time when we get to tier 4, the parents agree. This is not the best learning environment for them. And so with our honor lock, this is our biggest change with our online testing program that we're using. And this program videotapes students during the entire testing session, and AI provides us flags. And so our teachers have access to all these videos, and they review these videos. And so after the first semester, we came up with a flow chart for our teachers of how to support families and students with the online virtual testing. And so all of the details of our intervention plan is there. And so notice there's a term of honor lock revoke. We view students testing virtually as a privilege. And so if they've shown that they can't manage to not violate our rules on online, then no problem. You can just take the test in person in our testing lab that's manned by one of our teachers.
I'll just add, honor lock is no joke, because my daughter's in one of these classes, and her sister walked into her bedroom. She came like sobbing to me that she was going to be caught for cheating, and it was really just, she told us all that we couldn't walk into her room, that she was going to be testing, but her sister walked in anyway. And of course, it was caught. For the record, she got an email from a teacher.
Yeah,
I said, don't worry, it was quick. They probably won't notice. No, they noticed.
Yeah. And also it's AI, but our teachers review the videos of like, if there's a flag of like, okay, sister walked in, okay, that's not a big deal. So they're filtering this and they're reviewing it. So as with the stats here, you know, because of it, our huge diligence in all this, you can see that almost 90% of our students have no violations, no issues, no things. Everyone's, you know, taking their courses, taking their tests with academic integrity, and you know, I would probably say similar stats as an in-person school. And then just kind of finally, looking at our overall grades, again, trying to dismiss the idea that, you know, we're the online school, we're just handing out grades, that this is a comparison of fall of 24 to this fall. As you can see, the grades are similar, but we actually had an increase of 85% of grades. So we have an increase of 85% students taking our courses. And then you notice similar trends with the most recent grades of spring 12 at the 12-week grade. So with the changes that we've done, we've reduced barriers so more students have access to our school, but we've also maintained our academic integrity for our schools. So very, very proud of the work that my staff and my teachers are doing.
Any further questions or comments from trustees?
I would just like to thank Mr. Hatcher for taking this on and coming up with this, because it's a big deal, and I'm sure it was a lot of work for you. Thank you.
No worries.
For WASC accreditation, how do they look at online programs?
Similar way. They come and to make sure that we have a plan, that we are implementing our looking at our areas of growth and areas of strength. We just had our mid-year visit last year. I chair several WASC accreditations for other schools, and they look at similar ways.
Is there a distinction in ed code for K-12 about correspondence versus education?
There are state guidelines of what's essential for independent study. So at the high school level, we have to interact with the students once a week to ensure that we have contact, that they're not ghosting us or all the things.
How's that documented?
We do a homeroom system. So we have 4 times that students are required to attend. And so we have a 5-star program that students kind of check in. We run students through announcement videos or announcement slides, and we keep track. And any student that doesn't attend homeroom, we notify parents, and we follow up with them as part of our intervention program.
For students who are writing papers, history class, you use the turn it on, turn it in function to detect AI
Yep.
instances.
Yeah, it's all because we everything is run through Canvas. That's an automatic filter that is checked with Canvas. Is the turnitin.com is integrated.
Yeah, it's a little inaccurate. You thought about, it's more cost, and Grammarly has that function, determines whether or not something was, it goes through all the keystrokes and clicks so that you can actually see if somebody wrote a page. Finding it.
Yeah, no, definitely. We're looking at all aspects of it. There's Brisk, there's Grammarly. One of our teachers or several of our teachers are in the AI task force that is run by the district. And so looking at the best programs that's more efficient, the most efficient and, for our teachers and students is definitely something that we're evaluating constantly.
Moving on.
Thank you.
You.
Okay. Thank you, trustees. We'll continue on then with 4B2, High School Co-Curricular Transportation Fee Proposal. This was last brought to you a year ago, May 7th, 2025. Since that time, we have been working on a proposal. We're presenting that to you this evening for proposed transportation fees for 26-27 school year. Jen will facilitate a brief presentation for you, and then we'll present the new fee structure for your feedback.
We're good? Okay. I know we're running over, so I'm going to be very brief. I'm going to provide a quick history, actions taken this year from last May, and then share with you the proposed fee schedule. Just a reminder, we presented last May and explained that we discontinued collecting transportation fees in 2015, and as a district, we allocate $90,000 per school site for a total of $540,000, and that covered athletics, marching band, cheer, and at some schools, VAPA. That lasted and covered our costs all the way up until the 22 school year, till the 22 school year. In 22-23, we far exceeded the $540,000 that the district provides to each for the 6 high schools, and we spent $917,000, almost $377,000, almost $400,000 over budget. So we got your permission last year to look at ways to offset these costs. As a reminder, there are a lot of contributing factors to the increase. It's the later start times for high school, the limit now on how many hours bus drivers can drive. We have a shortage of bus substitute drivers, and then an increased reliance on our chartered buses that cost more. So this last year, we researched the fees that local districts were collecting. We worked with our principals, athletic directors, and activity directors on how this could work. We've created an AR to outline fees and parameters in order to be fiscally responsible, but also provide transportation to for all of our students involved in programs to their events. We also included our JROTC students at San Clemente and made sure all VAPA could be part of the transportation costs. Previously, just some schools were providing busing for VAPA, not all 6. We've also created a waiver for students who wish to self-transport, so it has maximum flexibility for families. We've worked with our communications department to have communication ready to roll out once board approved. And then we'll be training our coaches at the Coaches Summit at the end of the year, pending board approval. We developed a model that's it's based on 4 groups. It's based on size and the number of trips. As a reminder, any student who qualifies for free and reduced lunch would be exempt. And we also want to have flexibility at the school site, so certain athletic programs or VAPA programs could choose to opt out of paying the transportation fee and self-fund it through their boosters or through collections. We have annual caps for families who have multiple students in multiple sports and programs. And we're going to be very careful to collect these fees separate from the donations so they don't get commingled with the donations for the uniforms. This is our proposed fee structure. You can see we have 4 groups, different costs for each group, and it's based on the size of group and the number of trips that group takes. For example, our football teams are some of our largest groups. They fall into Group C. They have more than 30 students, and they take between 10 to 15 trips in a season. Some of our high schools have a men's choir. They might have 14, 17 students. They'd fall into Group A because maybe they only go on 4 trips a year. So we've really tried to tailor it, and this was with the input of all of our VAPA teachers, our coaches, our athletic directors, and our activities directors. As I said earlier too, groups can choose to opt out. An example would be a cross-country team that only travels once on a school bus. It may be more economical for that group just to collect money through their boosters program, through the donations, and just opt out of all of this. We want to have that flexibility for each group as well. At the bottom are the caps. And I'm available. We are all available for questions.
I think this is great. I'm just curious if somebody chooses not, like if you're on the basketball team and you are not on reduced lunch or free reduced lunch program, and your parents just decide not to pay, you're still able to ride the bus, correct?
Yes, but we will do everything we can to support that family in paying their
Right,
transportation fees.
absolutely, no.
Any additional questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
Okay, can continue on, Vice President Bolikas?
Yes.
All right, we're on to B3. This is first read Board Policy 0430, Comprehensive Local Plan for Special Education. Clint Collins will come up here and join me. This policy was first adopted in 1995, has not been revised since. So we are happy to answer any questions. We're bringing this for very needed review. We appreciate your feedback.
So the main principle behind this is just updating the wording with some new CDE language. This was initially adopted in 1995, as Dr. Merwin said, when we were a multi-district SELPA. We were part of Saddleback Valley and Laguna Beach. So it's mainly just updating the wording so that it shows that we're a single district SELPA and taking some of the new CDE wording and just adding it into our board policy. So not a whole lot of changes really. It's just kind of walking through what we have to do, requirements of when we create our local plan.
Any questions, comments from trustees?
I think you just answered the question that I have. I saw in the second sentence down that's crossed out, the district participates as a member of a SELPA. So we were grouped with other districts and now we're our own.
Yeah, we used to be the South Orange County SELPA, which still exists, but that's Saddleback Valley and Laguna Beach now. They just kept that name. We just created our own Rural Capistrano Unified SELPA.
Okay,
But we used to be a 3-district SELPA.
thank you.
That ended probably 20 years ago. So obviously not much needed update.
Updating.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, if there's no further questions, we're going to move on to first reading of Board Policy 5145.3, non-discrimination harassment. The first reading of this board policy is information only. No board action is necessary.
Yes, thank you. Dr. Michael Gomez joins me. This policy may look familiar to you because you last revised it in February. But since that point, federal program monitoring auditors came back and had additional requirements for us that they wanted in this policy after you had approved it. So that's why we're bringing it back for those additional requirements coming into the policy. We also noted it, we received feedback, there is a duplicative sentence in the policy revision. We have noted that and we will strike that duplicative. It's in the third section on page 2. It's just stated twice. We'll take out the duplication.
I just had one quick thing, and that was, I just noticed that you took out some writing in the second on page, let's see, on page 66, one of three, you took out "this policy applies to all acts related to," that second crossed out paragraph. And it's up above, but you didn't reference the ed code. And as I was reading this, I just thought, I love it when the ed code is referenced, so I don't want to take that out, because I like to know what's our district policy, what's the ed code, like where's the verbiage coming from?
Absolutely, we can add that citation back in. So we would put that citation back in.
First reading, Board Policy 5145.11, questioning and apprehension by law enforcement, formerly 5153, questioning of students by law enforcement. Again, information only. There is no board action required. You want to go ahead and present?
Yes, thank you. So Darren Ginder joins for this revision. This was last revised in 2019. We are happy to answer any questions, and we appreciate the feedback.
Okay, I have another question. This is in the paragraph, fourth paragraph, and down where it says, "except in cases of suspected child abuse," where it says the word "after." I would love to strike the word "after," because your designee shall notify the student's parent guardian as soon as practicable after the law enforcement officer interviews the student. The next paragraph says that during the interview of a student by law enforcement, the principal or designee shall be present unless the student or their parent or guardian declines. But if the parents aren't notified, and I understand that they can't always be notified, but I just feel like if the parents aren't notified, they can't decline. So I feel like it should just say as soon as possible, these parents should know what's going on. That might be after.
Parents should always be notified,
Yes.
except in exigent circumstances. Full stop. I cannot accept that we just, oh, well, we might notify you, or we couldn't reach you. We will reach you before we question your student. Yeah. That's the exception.
Taking the word "after" out, because we're not talking about suspected child abuse or neglect. Fourth, yeah.
As practical after the law, that means the officer talk to the, or the parents know.
I actually have proposed wording on this and some other things. And Trustee Bullicus and Trustee Zollinger and I talked about this on the phone because I can talk to two trustees. And I have a number of questions, and I have them all written out. References.
Yeah.
I know they're illegal. I know this.
Mhm. So, I mean, the legal ramifications here is that the law enforcement officer, as they come to interview a student within the scope of their investigation, they do understand the rights that they have to provide to the student that they're going to interview. Now, in the absence of a parent, obviously the administrator at the site is going to act as the parent and support that student within their rights as an advocate. So I will also say that I would say 9 maybe out of 10 times, the parent has already been notified. Law enforcement comes with the parent, or they talk to the parent before they go interview the student. On occasion, usually when there's something going on in the home, that's when they will instruct, like, look, we can't tell them right now because the suspect's in the home or something like that.
that's specific. But they do have the right to go and make contact with someone, to interview that student within the scope of what their investigation is. And then they will determine whether or not Miranda comes into play. Is it a custodial interview versus just an interview? And then if the parent is not there, the moment, the administrator will act as the student advocate to protect their rights. But I have not seen really where the parent is already not involved in the process when they're coming to the campus for rendering. No, as soon as practical.
Does that make sense, though? I
As soon
don't
as
know if-
practical would fit.
Does it?
And then the other question, Darren, is that the paragraph after that one that you've just mentioned, the principal or designee would be with the student unless the student of the parent or their parent declines. Now, I don't know how likely a second grader might decline the principal staying with them, but it almost seems like there should be, for a student to be able to decline, there should almost be maybe an age in which they can do that. We wouldn't want to leave some young student with an officer without
Absolutely.
an adult figure representing the student.
And that wouldn't happen. Not only does the administrator stand in there, but the law enforcement officer, under their scope of authority, they know that their legal rights, where they can and cannot talk to a person based on a certain age. Under
But of
16,
this policy, it doesn't state that. It says unless the student or their parent guarantee, guardian declines. So the student can decline it.
Yeah, and I've seen them do that when I'm sitting in with the student, and it's most likely, usually it's because I don't want the administrator to understand what I did. And so, no, thank you, but I'm gonna say, look, you should probably have somebody here. Then I'm gonna step out and I'm gonna call the parent and say, look, they're here talking with your child. They didn't want me in there. Do you know what this is about? And every time I've gotten, yep, I know what it's about. So we're good. So,
Just like we have the age at 12 years old, you know, I just wonder if there couldn't be something here in terms to safeguard the young student that wouldn't know their rights and they are embarrassed. And so it's like, no, I don't want the
So-
administrator.
law enforcement, they, under the scope of their authority, they're not gonna come interview a student regarding a case.
But
because
that's
they
not
can't
in the
without legal
policy.
representation.
It needs to be in the policy, and I say that we change that paragraph to, during an interview of a student by law enforcement, the principal or designee shall be present unless the student aged, I say 16, trustee Zollinger preferred 12, I don't really care, but some age, or their parent/guardian declines. I don't think that a second grader has the right to decline.
No.
And I know of instances where a second grader declined and didn't understand what they were doing and just heard, you know, they know they didn't do anything wrong, or they believe they didn't do anything wrong. I don't think that it is okay, and it should be in the policy. I don't care that law enforcement should know. I want it in the policy, because our teachers are going by what's in our policies, not what law enforcement knows.
Fair enough.
And, you know, I am pro-law enforcement, but I am more pro-student than I am pro-law enforcement, because it's not my job in this district to be pro-law enforcement. It's my job to be pro-student. And I think there are things in here that are not pro-student. And I think that paragraph should be, unless the student aged, and the board can say, I say 16 or older, or their parent declines. A young student should not be given the opportunity to decline. Now, if you get the parent on the phone and the parent declines, fine. But the student should not have the opportunity, a young student should not have the opportunity to decline. I also want in the 5th paragraph to be, during an interview of a student by law enforcement, the principal or designee shall be present unless the student or parent, I might say, student or parent declines. And again, exigent circumstances where it's an emergency, that's different. That is covered in the policy. And the policy also covers suspected child abuse. But outside of those, we have to protect the student. And we cannot say, oh, well, law enforcement knows this. You knew it, you were law enforcement, but that is not something we govern. We do not govern what law enforcement knows.
We don't make assumptions.
Yeah, and we can't make that assumption.
Yeah.
Duly noted.
Well, I would just, I mean, I think I'm saying the same thing a little, but if there is a reason why we wouldn't alert parents before law enforcement interviews a student. I don't see, I don't know what the law is about that. I think we absolutely, I agree with Trustee Jones that we don't let a police officer interview a student unless that parent knows that it's happening. That's what I say.
I would agree.
So I have a list, and there's copies on the back table. Maybe they're over by Mr. Burris. Maybe he could bring them up for the two of you, because I've given them to the board members and Dr. Brown. I'm concerned about potential confusion between this and the Immigration Enforcement Response Board policy, because immigration agents are law enforcement. And a staff could look at this policy and say, oh, okay, I've got an immigration agent, they're law enforcement, so I'm applying this. But state law says you can't do that. And I think we need a statement early on in this policy that says that in case of immigration enforcement, that takes precedence over this policy. That the, which one is immigration enforcement? That 1445 takes precedence over 5145.11, because that's state law, and we have to follow state law. We talk about this all the time, that state law takes precedence. So I think we need to make sure that staff is not confused, because we could get sued if staff gets confused on any of this stuff. There's possibility of legal action in this stuff being done wrong and parents not being notified, et cetera, throughout. Then I want to bring up a lot of things. So the existing policy says in the second paragraph, local law enforcement, but then that was struck through in the proposal. And if we take that out, the policy pertains to state, federal, and local law enforcement. I think it should only pertain to local, because again, what's to stop a staff member from saying, oh, wait, I've got immigration enforcement here. I'm supposed to use this because it doesn't say local, it's everybody. I sort of doubt that would happen, but why take out local? Let's put local back in.
We might have to do it as an and then. I'm fine with putting it back in. But the reality is if it was federal non-immigration enforcement law,
Okay.
this would still apply. So I don't want them to be like, oh, the FBI is here, which
FBI.
probably
Okay,
won't happen.
all right.
And be like, oh, this doesn't apply.
I'm
It-
good with that.
It does.
I'm
So
good with that.
We would say local and
Okay.
national law enforcement. And then your line at the top clarifying when to use the immigration policy, 45 is fine too.
So my next issue has to do with SROs. If you look at this policy, I don't think we are requiring SROs to abide by it, because the SROs on a lot of our campuses are kind of just staff members. And an SRO could say to a kid, oh, I saw you over at Vaughn's. Do you still live in that neighborhood there? And they're just being friendly. But later on, they use that information in some investigation, and they have inadvertently questioned a student. We don't have a policy on SROs. SROs are kind of a hybrid thing. And what I did find is that we have, in 2018, we accepted this MOU with the Sheriff's Department. And as far as I can tell, this is what is governing how SROs work. But there's some problems here. It says here that in an emergency, in an emergency, the school shall call 911 and notify the SRO. In a non-emergency situation, the school should notify the SRO. Does our staff know that? That's in this de facto policy, this MOU that we accepted. And then on the, later on, it says, in cases where the SRO is requested by school staff to assist with a potential mental health investigation, which they are eminently qualified to do, they should follow procedures outlined in Sheriff's Department Policy, Field Operations Manual, Section 29. That was last revised in August 2014. August 2014. Do we really think that that's up to date and that that's in line with how?
No, that's not up to date.
No, it's not. It can't be. Then later on, the school site principal or his/her designee shall advise her staff of their legal obligation to cooperate with law enforcement and should not interfere in law enforcement investigations. Well, if it's immigration enforcement, they do interfere. I mean, not interfere, but they get involved. And then it says that consistent with federal and state laws, law enforcement officers may have the right to come on campus and interview students who are suspects, witnesses, or crimes of victims. Parental permission to interview a student from school is not required. That is false. There is no law that says it is not required. In fact, the school districts can require it. And if you can find a law that says that they are permitted, then school districts can't overrule that, I would like to see it, because I looked high and low. So, I mean, there are problems in this MOU. Then later on, consistent with federal and state laws, the SRO may have authority to stop, question, interview, and take police action without the prior authorization of the school site principal or contacting parents. Same thing. Later on, it is expected school administrators and staff will follow specific instructions given by law enforcement when attempting to protect the student.
Keela, I only want to keep us on track, though.
Okay.
We're not looking at the MOU tonight. That wasn't agendized.
I understand, but here's the problem. We do not have an SRO policy. And the way, if you look at this policy, I do not believe the questioning and apprehension, we are following this with our SROs. I think we need a separate SRO policy. I really do.
Or we need to call them out in this quiz, because they are sworn officers of local law enforcement. They're not a hybrid. They are 100% sheriff's deputies.
Okay.
So they would definitely fall into this policy, so we may need some clarity around the,
Yes,
like
and
SROs.
that MOU would be a place to start.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you-
So
yes.
I agree that we need to take them into consideration,
Okay,
but,
all right.
but I don't know what separate.
We are not defining the word interviewing here. I don't know if this is like a legal term or not, a term of art in the law, but how does a school staff member who is not an attorney know when something is an interview, again, with an SRO? If you say, hey, I saw you over at Vaughn's, do you still live by there? Is that an interview? I think, again, I just think this is a problem.
If I can jump in.
Yeah.
To Gila's point that she has discussed with me is, we know SRO officers in especially, well, really all of our grade levels, all of our schools, they really get to know the kids. I mean, during, in recent times, people think, oh, we're putting these police officers, putting police officers to try and find kids to arrest or whatever. Our SRO officers are highly trained in working with kids, working with letting them know in terms of where to go, if they want to report something, see something, say something, and build the relationship. So what Gila has expressed is that there is sometimes this conversational, that they get to know certain kids, and then the word interview. Well, if they've learned something, can they use that? I mean, I don't know how much we can get into dissecting that sort of thing, but
Yeah, I
that
mean,
was
there's a
something
point at
that
which we
was expressed.
definitely want the SROs to be interacting with our kids. We want them to build relationships. I think it's gonna be really hard for us to make a legal definition of at that moment that became an interview, even though if you didn't intend, now we're gonna start having to define, was your intent at that time to do that? Or did it just happen to be that later you found out something happened at Vaughn's and you talked to the kid? That might be beyond the scope of what we're capable of doing while
Right.
we have SROs. Like,
Okay.
so I would say that's, like,
And it might-
including them in here is fine. I think defining how an SRO interacts with every single student every single day and whether or not that's an interview might be a little bit
Well, right.
too challenging.
It might
And-
also have, in part of that conversation of knowing when the interview is being guided more towards the penal code, welfare institution code, something that is criminal in nature versus maybe the ed code, school rules that are not a crime necessarily, to where you clarify between those two of
Right.
what your role is
Right.
and what you're saying.
But if we
Yeah,
had
but
an
you-
SRO policy, we could deal with that more in an SRO policy and let SROs know that, for example, a casual conversation could end up being regarded legally as an interview, for example, because that could happen. you get into a lawsuit, and then it's like, what did you say, and why did you say it, and what was your intent? And things can go south pretty quick. So that is a concern to me. There's also a statement here about the staff asking under what authority the law enforcement officer is acting. And if they say, I'm acting under my own authority, is that enough? I just think there's a lot of stuff in here that's kind of loosey-goosey, and I don't think we generally like our board policies to be loosey-goosey, and that,
Can you accept from trustee Jones her submission of recommendations? This is first reading. You can take a look, make a recommendation to come back for second reading.
They're all coming back for second
Yeah.
reading, so.
Well, but I mean, to include possibly where you see fit.
Absolutely.
And then you will look at the MOU to see the
Yes.
SRO. And
Yeah,
where
we
might
will, and
wanna
this is
update
very
that.
helpful too, trustee Jones, so this will help us guide through the work. We'll take a look at it again. We'll
And it
bring
may
back
be,
some
oftentimes our
edits.
details are in AR, so maybe that we need to create an AR
right,
that
right.
deals with SROs specifically, that is sub to this policy, so it'd be an aligned AR that clarifies SRO work inside this policy.
Very good.
Okay.
Okay,
And then we're going to move on to B6, the deletion of Board Policy 5131.1, use of individual student record information for academic achievement data, disaggregation. Again, information only, no board action, and
Just wanted to point out that the AR is already posted on the website. AR 5125 student records is already available for the public.
so probably no questions in this one. Let's move on to 4B7, deletion of the board policy 6200, adult education, very similar. You wanna
Yeah, just
present?
recommending deleting the policy because we no longer operate a comprehensive adult education program.
We do, however, have some adult classes in vocational, and I didn't look at this because the deletions often, okay.
Yes, I
that-
talked to
that-
Chris Carter, and we do offer different programs through CCA.
offers.
Exactly,
Yes, we do.
right, and I didn't look this one, to be honest with you, but I'm just not sure. Are we okay with deleting it when we are still doing some adult programs?
We aren't doing it, CCA is doing it. Remember, we
Okay,
are not
all
the
right.
CCA board.
Okay,
So they are their own independent board, so they would need a policy around adult
you're right.
education.
Since there's no further business before the board, may I have a motion to adjourn
So
the
moved.
workshop?
So
It
moved.
was
I think we,
moved by trustee Adams, seconded by trustee Zumlinger. All those in favor, say aye.
I.
Any opposition?
Don't go
Okay.
anywhere.
That
Don't go
is
anywhere.
601.
Open first.
Okay, and the time is now 7:36. And we will now move to the special meeting. Wait a minute. aren't we closing?
You have to open the meeting first, so we can then go to close. session.
Okay. But I'm not opening.
Because it's a separate it's a separate meeting, so we have to open the special meeting.
Yes. But I'm not.
You're opening the special meeting.
Yes.
You are.
Welcome to the May 6, 2026 special board meeting of the Capistrano Unified School District. The meeting is now in session and the time is 7:37. Mrs. Schwenke, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Castellanos.
Here.
Trustee Pritchard. Trustee Zollinger.
Here.
Trustee Jones.
Here.
Trustee Adams.
Here.
Trustee Bullicus.
Here.
And Trustee Davis will be absent this evening.
May I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Second?
Moved by trustee Adams and seconded by trustee Jones. Ms. Schwenke, do we have any requests to speak for the adoption of the agenda?
There are none.
Okay. So all those in favor, say aye. And any noes? Okay, and that is 601. Ms. Schwenke, before the board recesses to closed session, is there anyone who'd like to speak to closed session agenda item?
We have none.
Okay, the board will now recess to closed session to address the following agenda items. A, conference with labor negotiators, CUEA, CSEA, Teamsters, KUMA, and unrepresented employees. B, public employee discipline, dismissal, release, one case. C, public employment and evaluation of performance. The board will now recess to closed session.
The meeting is now live. You can start the meeting.
I'd like to reconvene the board meeting to open this session. The time is now 8:16 p.m. Ms. Schwenke, please call the roll.
Trustee Castellanos.
Here.
Trustee Pritchard.
Present.
Trustee Zollinger.
Here.
Trustee Jones.
Here.
Trustee Adams.
Here.
Trustee Bullicus.
Here.
And Trustee Davis will be absent this evening.
And I'd like to ask if Clint Collins could please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Schwenke, please read the report from closed session.
On agenda item 4A, conference with labor negotiators, no reportable action. On agenda item 4B, public employee discipline dismissal release, trustees voted 6-0-1 to approve staff recommendation on the following case, resolution number 2526-12C. And on agenda item 4C, public employment and evaluation of performance, superintendent, no reportable action. This concludes the report.
Thank you. We will now move to the consent calendar. Ms. Schwenke, do we have any speaker cards for this item?
There are none.
Do any trustees wish to pull a consent item for further discussion? May I have a motion to approve the consent calendar items 10A and 10B?
So moved.
Moved by trustee Adams and
Zollinger.
seconded by trustee Zollinger. Ms. Schwenke, please call the roll.
Trustee Castellanos.
Aye.
Trustee Pritchard.
Aye.
Trustee Zollinger.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Adams.
Aye.
Trustee Bullicus.
Aye. Motion carries 6-0-1 to approve the consent calendar. There being no further business before the board, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by trustee Jones and seconded by trustee Adams. Ms. Schwenke, please call the roll.
Trustee Castellanos. Trustee Pritchard.
Aye.
Trustee Zollinger.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Adams.
Aye.
And Trustee Bullicus.
Aye. Motion carries 6-0-1 to adjourn the meeting. The time is now 8:18.